And good morning. It is a Would You Rather Wednesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. He's Griffin. It was fun last night, right? Everybody had a good time. Reed and I were fighting on the air. It was after I'd already melted down about Grayson Rodriguez. Well, don't get me started about John Harbaugh. Don't get me started. Don't. I don't want to do it. What I wouldn't give today to hear the words "not season ending." You know what I wouldn't give today to hear those words? After yesterday, I hated them. But today, I would kiss someone to hear the words "not season ending." I don't know. Glenn Clark Radio. It's a Wednesday edition of the program. Coming up, we'll talk about Grayson. Our buddy, Mr. Under the Knife himself, Will Carroll, the injury expert. He's going to join us. None of us had, I swear to God, those of you that are pretending like we all know what a Therese is, shut up. The two of you had ever heard of that term before. Two of you. Everybody in the 5 minutes band's like, oh, dude, Therese is. I'm like, just stop. Just stop. You don't know what you're talking about. But he'll try to explain everything to us as we continue to await word on what it might mean. We'll talk about the Orioles with our friend Chelsea Janes of the Washington Post. We'll play Would You Rather Wednesday with our buddy Tim Barbalace. That's all on the way this morning. Real bummer because I thought we weren't ever going to see Big Al get another man of the match, but he was very much in line to be man of the match last night. And then it all went to hell. So no man of the match today. But when there is a man of the match, it is, of course, brought to you by the Maryland 5-Star. I don't know why you don't already have your tickets. Maryland5star.us. It's not just a world-class equestrian competition. It's truly a gathering spot in the fall up in Cecil County. It is such a cool event. You can call 410-MD5-STAR. Look at that. Maryland 5-Star. 410-MD5-STAR to get your tickets. Or just visit Maryland5star.us with the number 5, October 17th through 20th at Fairhill in Cecil County for the Maryland 5-Star. Yeah, it was an unpleasant evening. It was an unpleasant evening. So let's separate what matters from the malarkey, as the president would say when he's lucid. What matters is the Grayson Rodriguez situation, and we just everybody. Well, Grayson Rodriguez a few years back had this injury in the minor. Stop. I get that you're just trying to add any information. When we don't have information, everybody's just trying to add some sort of information. What we know right now is that Grayson Rodriguez was sent back to Baltimore. Presumably, that means he's moving to the IL. Now, as was pointed out by a few people, given the fact that they didn't play on Monday, it would be fair to say no one who pitched last night besides Suarez isn't available tonight. So if you decided, I don't know if they had a pitcher with them on the taxi squad or if they've already sent someone, you would think the guy would be Keegan Aiken. If they've already sent someone to Toronto, they would have the option to maybe wait it out, see what they learn about Grayson Rodriguez today, and then revisit that. If for some miracle of miracles he doesn't need to miss time, or he would only really miss one more start or something like that, even if he would have missed one start, I would think that would probably be enough for them to go ahead and choose to put him on the IL because you can get him back in 10 days. But if for some miracle that was the case, they could wait it out a day because they presumably don't have anyone who isn't available. There were a couple guys who didn't pitch. Cano didn't pitch last night. Somebody else didn't pitch last night. Webb didn't pitch last night. I think that might be the only two. I think they used 6 pitchers. Did they use 6 pitchers or just 5?
I blacked out.
Yeah. Because they use, obviously, they obviously used Soto. Oh, Dominguez didn't pitch last night,
you're right.
right?
Dominguez did not pitch.
So those guys are
They did use 6.
are obviously available. They had to use both lefties, but like Perez, you'd think that he'd be available. I would think they're going to want to get Keegan Aiken on the roster today, and I think the likelihood is that Grayson Rodriguez is head of the IL, so I expect that Keegan Aiken's going to be on the roster today as long as he could get to Toronto. There's another problem that we'll deal with, but the first problem is, what is the significance for Grayson Rodriguez? And again, I can't present that information. I'm hoping that when we talk to Will Carroll a little bit later on, he can give us something a bit more informative. Obviously not definitive. He's not an actual doctor, and he's certainly not the one that's looking at Grayson Rodriguez today, but he is a man with a lot more information and knowledge about the topic, so we will try that a little bit later on. That said, by the way, I'm also despondent because Poland is basically toying with Team USA in the men's volleyball semifinal.
It's early.
Yeah, it's early, but I'm not well this week, Griffin. I'm not well. I'm not handling anything well. There's lots of problems. So we start with that. That's what matters. If Grayson Rodriguez misses significant time, now all of a sudden you are back to needing Trevor Rogers to be a thing, needing Dean Kramer to be a thing. And it's not impossible that Trevor Rogers couldn't become a thing, but clearly the guy that we saw last week sure as hell didn't look like a thing, and he hasn't much looked like a thing this year in Miami. So you don't feel good about the likelihood of that. But there's not a whole lot more that we can say. That's sort of the bottom line. If Grayson Rodriguez is going to miss time, you're past July 31st. There's nothing more that you can do. Spare me you could sign Trevor Bauer. Just stop. It's just exhausting. They're not signing Trevor Bauer. Nor do I even think that, in a world where Trevor Bauer didn't still have accusations against him that hadn't been settled, would I even suggest that, you have any knowledge that can be the answer? Someone who hasn't pitched in the major leagues for years coming in August of a major league season. Just stop. You are where you are. You can continue to scour to see if other players get waived, but put on waivers in the next couple of weeks, and the expectation around baseball is that they will. But, again, thinking that you're going to find a starting pitching answer, considering that you had to trade real commodities to get Trevor Rogers, who you don't feel good about, it's what it is. Presumably Albert Suarez, based on what he did last night, would have re-earned the opportunity to be the fifth guy in the rotation. They're not going to go back to Chase McDermott. He's hurt. And Cade Povich was so disastrous that I don't think that's really a choice. The only kind of questions in the immediacy, I would think Keegan Aiken would return to the roster. The problem being, it didn't seem like they really wanted to use Keegan Aiken as a quote-unquote long man. So if you do that, you're going back to the situation that you had earlier on in the year where you don't have a long man. Last night, you needed that guy. I don't know how to value that. It's measured against the other problem, and let's dive into that, which is you don't trust Gregory Soto. So you feel like you might need another lefty that you actually trust. Now, that's a far more complicated conversation, but in the immediacy, it would present you the option to put Keegan Aiken back on the roster and try to maybe reset Gregory Soto somehow the way you've been resetting Craig Kimbrell. Only use him in non-leverage situations. But if you do that, you no longer have a long man. They did that for the majority of the start of the season. It wasn't until they made their trade deadline acquisitions that they had a long man. Again, timed out well because they needed one. But I don't have an answer here. I think the answer is Keegan Aiken has to be back on the team because you can't trust Gregory Soto at the moment. But he's on the team. They chose him. We'll get into that. That's what matters. Today, they need to get some sort of information about Grayson Rodriguez. You have to hope for the best. You presume there's a roster move to be made. You presume Albert Suarez is going into the rotation, and it puts a much bigger microscope on Trevor Rogers' second Orioles start tonight, because now there's more of a likelihood that he's going to have to pitch for you in the playoffs. Anybody have any antacid? Anybody have any Tums? So that's the first part. That's the tangible part. That's the part that we deal with. Now we deal with the nonsense. And there's a lot to dive into from last night. The long and short. I'll start with the short. The short is they scored 2 runs. God bless Albert Suarez and the effort that he put in, but expecting to win baseball games where you score 2 runs ain't great. They were getting killed by Chris Bassett. Jackson Holliday, the only one that was able to do anything. You guys, you're panning. You better. God, I can't even imagine the burn that it feels. How much your panties are twisted today. Let's go through them. Let me remind you, big picture. When you scream about Brandon Hyde and making decisions based on whatever word you want to use, analytics, data, however you want to use it, you're kind of only showing your ass. Brandon Hyde is not freewheeling these decisions. These are the choices of the organization. Mike Elias and his merry band of Yale-educated geniuses, and I don't say that disparagingly, they are. They're way smarter than I am, have decided that this is the way things are going to go. Brandon Hyde is not working against them by relying on data to make his decisions. He's working with them. And this is the part. If you don't like the decisions, fine. Fine. But screaming about Brandon Hyde is comical, because I assure you that in a world where Brandon Hyde isn't the manager, they're not hiring a different manager who's going to say, a pox on your data. It is as dumb gets. If you like Mike Elias and you like what his team is doing, you're going to have to live with the fact that they're going to consult the data. And whoever the manager is going to be expected to similarly consult the data, which doesn't always mean that I agree with every decision. And we'll get to that. I think there's room. But this, it's just wasted breath as wasted breath gets. Oh, Brandon Hyde, stop it. I mean this with all due respect. You're an idiot. If you want to say you disagree with the organizational philosophy, let's have a conversation. But you can't separate it from, I think Mike Elias is really good. As some people point out, it's also 3 days ago, we were all screaming about the lineup that Brandon Hyde put out on a Saturday night. Oh, this sucks. And it was the lineup that got the offense going again. The dumber version is we just don't like the results. And when we don't like the results, we convince ourselves that just do something different and the result will definitely be better. It's brain dead. It's bad faith. Sometimes you're obfuscating. My buddy, my guy, Rob Shields from, I think he writes for Utah Street Report. Boy, he was going hard on that last night. That guy loves to fight with me about everything. And boy, he was killing it with his obfuscation last night. Let's talk about the one that set everyone off. We'll talk about that one first. 6th inning. 2 outs. Burch Smith in the game gives up a base hit to Vladimir Guerrero. Runner on first base, Spencer Horwitz. Pride of St. Paul's. Due up next, John Colson, the same.
You're rooting for Spencer Horwitz?
What the hell's wrong with you? So, Griffin, I'll ask you these questions.
Okay.
Birch Smith pitched pretty well for the Orioles. In fact,
Yeah.
so well that we believe they kind of chose him. I think a lot of us believed he was going to be the guy to go in order to get I guess Soto would have been the last one on the roster. Ha! It was between he and Keegan Aiken, the only two guys that had options. They chose Birch Smith. In fairness, he's right-handed. Keegan Aiken's left-handed. I have no doubt that some of that, with Soto being left-handed, that probably factored into the decision. But they chose to keep Birch Smith. He's been really good, right? Birch Smith, let's establish the facts. You're aware that Birch Smith throws the baseball with his right hand, correct?
I am aware of that, yes.
You are also aware that Spencer Horwitz hits the baseball
left-handed.
with his left hand.
Correct.
All right. So we've
Well, I guess he
established
hits it with both hands,
those
but
things
yeah.
as fact. Now, that alone, to me, is not the finality of the conversation, and we'll get back to that. But do you know what lefties are hitting against Birch Smith this season?
I guess I do now, you know.
And it is?
And it is, well, I guess I don't know the exact number, but they
Well,
hit
just
it,
guess
they
a
hit
number.
it better.
Just guess a
They
number.
hit him better
Guess
than
a number.
300.
Go up.
350.
Close. 349.
Okay.
349.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, is it? What do you think his whip is against left-handed hitters?
1.7.
Up.
1.8.
Up slightly.
1.85.
186. 186. So we'll table that, right? Like, that's the first piece of evidence that we have to work with in that situation. Now let's go back to maybe Spencer Horwitz is one of those guys that actually just, like, weirdly doesn't hit well against righties. Maybe he's one of those, like, reverse splits guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if that's the case, then even though Birch Smith isn't really good against lefties, and by isn't really good, he's really bad against lefties, then maybe we could find some evidence that it might be worth taking the risk anyway. Hell, there's only one runner on base at this point, right? Like, let's just see if we can find some evidence there, shall we? So let's go ahead, because again, I have the internet. Not the data that they have, but just a simple search I do have available to me. And again, I'm a stupid. Glenn Clark, noted stupid. Very significantly stupid. So let's see if we can't pull that up, shall we? Okay. Spencer Horwitz.
Yes.
Right? And the pride of St. Paul. We already established it.
Yeah.
John Colson yelled the whole thing. Timonium guy. What do you think Spencer Horwitz hits? Let's just start against right-handers.
Okay. So
remember, he's a
this
lefty.
I do remember, I think,
Yeah.
because I know now.
Okay.
He's around 700, I think, against righties, right? Or 720 something.
What?
OPS.
Oh,
sorry.
OPS.
Yeah, sorry,
his OPS is actually better than that.
Oh, okay. 750.
Keep going.
780.
Keep going.
Oh, I was way off.
Keep
800.
Keep going.
Wow, 850 against righties.
842.
Sorry. Okay, I was thinking lefty. Whatever. It doesn't matter anymore.
842.
Either way, he's good against
righties. He's really good against righties. Against lefties,
not as good. Closer to 700.
not
Lower.
Keep going.
Oh, like 600.
Keep going.
520.
531.
Yeah.
Boy, this seems like a lot of evidence, right? This doesn't feel so neutral, does it? This doesn't feel like you can maybe be dismissive of this and just go with your gut. Which, again, I don't know why your gut would tell you this anyway, but I tell you what, for the hell of it, now we know what the result was. We're quite aware. But what do you think Gregory Soto does? Because, again, I get it. The 2 times, while his outing on Sunday was more meh, it wasn't awful, as we talked about on Monday. It wasn't embarrassing. It certainly wasn't great, but his first outing as an Oriole was dreadful, and his last outing as a Philly was dreadful. So he'd had 2 really bad outings. Now, the month before that, he was very good. But he had 2 really bad outings. So I will file that away as everybody kept saying, well, that's how you know you can't use him. Yes, because everybody knows if you have 2 bad outings as a reliever in the span of then you're never able to be used in a real situation again. That's definitely established fact and a really strong argument that everyone's made. But let's pull up the data on Gregory Soto, shall we? Which, again, I can find with the simplest of search, and I'm a big stupid. that barely knows how to use technology. Gregory Soto, this season, against left-handed hitters like Spencer Horwitz. What do you think his numbers are?
I would think they're better than righties.
You think they're better than righties? Yes, I would say they're better than righties, even after last night. By the way, the last night did shatter these numbers a little bit.
Okay.
For what it's worth.
Soto against lefties, I'll say what his OPS.
I wish I could fight. I wish I had it before last night. I wish I could pull that up. It's now lefties are now hitting 271 against him. So that number did go up for what it's worth. It was more like 250.
Got it.
Which, again, isn't shut down, but given all of the other evidence that you have, it suggests overwhelmingly that it makes sense to put a lefty in. Now, for those of you that said, well, you could have put in Perez. Yes, you could have. Yes. If you say it that way, you're correct. If you say you could have put Perez in, 1,000% you could have. It was the sixth inning of a one-run game with a runner on first and 2 outs. Now tell me, do you think it's possible that in a one-run game that perhaps the manager of the team would say, boy, I might need my leverage lefty for another spot in the next 3 innings of this game?
I think that's fair.
Do you think it might be even more than fair, but more like
definitely
very logical? Because,
and if he doesn't have a closer.
Some people last night were trying to argue with me that, no, this is the leverage spot. You try to put your leverage guy. Yes, because everybody knows the Guardians go to Emmanuel Clase in the 6th inning. That's very common knowledge now that managers put their highest leverage relievers in. By the way, you were right. That proved to be the biggest leverage spot of the game. It's why a season ago I was harping about the idea that you need multiple closers. This year I'd settle for one. But last year I wanted multiple closers for the playoffs. I wanted Felix Bautista and Josh Hader, if you remember correctly, because you do need in-game closers for that spot. Now, the Orioles don't have that. It's part of the problem. Every ounce. I don't know what the percentage works like once you add all that data together. And that might be something the Orioles have, like a mathematical equation for. That if you do this, all of this data suggests there's a 63% chance of it working, whereas if you were to do this if you were to say leave Birch Smith in, the data says it has a 24% chance of it. I don't know if they have a formula like that. I don't know how to add it all up because, again, Glenn Clark, stupid. But I know that based on the data that we dove into, there is no debate as to whether or not that was a sound, logical, smart decision that baseball minds would all say, yeah, that's what you do in that spot. And vibes, being the opposing argument, it's just us saying we don't know what we're talking about. And falling back on, well, it didn't work. You're right. It didn't. That's a fact. As we all know, doing the right thing doesn't always get the right result. But the notion that in the same spot ever they'd make a different decision is poppycock. And it doesn't matter who the manager. You keep obsessing about Brandon Hyde. I would tell you, I don't know that if you really stuck the, as Drew likes to say, the truth serum into Brandon Hyde, that he would tell you that he loves all of the data. I bet there are times where Brandon Hyde would just sort of like to go on vibes. I don't know, man, vibes. But that's the job. And your guys' obsession with but Bruce Bochy is, again, as brainless as it gets. A lot of times it's worked for Bruce Bochy. Bruce Bochy also has a 500 record as a baseball manager. Pretending like Bruce Bochy is a bastion of all things smart is a miss. He has won a lot of World Series. How much of that was about Bruce Bochy? How much of that was Tim Lincecum,
Madison Bumgarner,
Corey Seager. I mean, like, we just say things because it backs up our again, vibes. Dude, but vibes. Now, that doesn't mean that I always agree. And the 8th inning stuff is far more was it the 8th inning? Was that
when they had the bases loaded?
Yes.
That was the 8th inning.
Yes. All of a sudden, for some reason, I'm like, that was the 8th inning, right?
Yeah.
The 8th inning stuff is a way more compelling conversation for a couple of reasons. We all want to fight about the Austin Slater thing, but the truth is Austin Slater walked with the bases loaded. Yelling about the fact that Brandon Hyde said after the game, again, we just are purposefully obtuse. I mean, this isn't just Orioles fans or baseball fans or sports fans. We do this in politics. We do this across the world. Brandon Hyde said after the game, well, Austin Slater has hit lefties well this year. And, of course, everybody, no, he hasn't. Right, we get it. But we also know that Austin Slater is here, and we can debate that or not, because in his history, in his career, he has hit lefties. So Brandon Hyde made a mistake in what he said because, no, Austin Slater has not hit anyone well this year other than Saturday, where he was great. I guess if you only looked at the Orioles this year, he has. He has hit lefties well this year.
So he should have said, I've seen him hit lefties well this year.
And again, if he had just said, Austin Slater has a track record of hitting lefties, 1,000%. He does. And again, that one worked. You can argue with it because you want to argue with it, but like what you can't argue is the result. And again, that's the thing that you're arguing from earlier is the result. That result worked.
And even in the moment, that one feels a lot less egregious than...
Yes, the other one is the one. And then the people are like, well, if you were going to... You should have pinch hit for Ramon Arias. Look, man...
He's a righty and...
Like, I get that Ramon Arias is a problem. And he doesn't overwhelmingly hit lefties. Like, there's multiple issues with Ramon Arias. But I don't think you're going to pinch hit a righty for a righty. I just don't think that's going to happen. I certainly don't see anything about Kobe Mayo that suggests that he's definitively a better option than another right-handed hitter. The argument being, well, he would go in and play third base. I get it. I understand what you're saying. But let's get to the actual point. That one to me is way more meh. Like letting Ramon Arias hit, he's a right-handed hitter. Again, I don't think Ramon Arias should be on the team at this point, but I didn't think that Jorge Mateo and Jordan Westburg got hurt. Like the Orioles' bigger problems are related to their litany of injuries. At this point, I think that if you have a healthy Mateo and a healthy Westburg, if you have both of them healthy, I do wonder if Ramon Arias is on the team, if both of them are healthy. Because it's easy to say, well, Mayo wouldn't be on the team for sure. Would it be Mayo and Holiday who aren't on the team? Maybe. Maybe the Orioles would have continued to try to ride it out. So I can't guarantee that Arias wouldn't be on the team. But we'd be the knocking would be getting louder on the door at that point. The one that unquestionably I cannot defend. I am not blindly loyal to every decision that Brandon Hyde makes is a good one. The ones that are backed up by the data, I'm going to say are good ones. Pinch hitting Kobe Mayo for Colton Cowser, I cannot defend in any way. But it's not because of vibes. That's the easy thing to say, right? Like, Colton Cowser's been the best hitter since the All-Star break. Kobe Mayo doesn't have a hit. That's the vibes argument, right? Vibes tell me I don't want to pinch hit for him. Right, but what does the data tell us? And that's the reason why I can't defend it. The truth is, as I've pointed out a few times, and this is why I couldn't stomach the idea of Christian Pache getting playing time or why I was fighting with everyone in the world. It's hilarious how many people were fighting me about I don't think that he deserves a roster spot, screaming, and 3 days later he didn't have a roster spot. Because you couldn't defend him having a roster spot. Like, you just couldn't. Not in the regular season. The playoffs, again, I would have felt differently about it because You don't have to play guys. You can leave them on the bench and bring them into the game and let them be a pinch runner and a defensive replacement.
Yeah.
Colton Cowser this season is not grotesque against lefties. Cedric Mullins is. Colton Cowser has a 718 OPS against lefties. It's not great, but he is physically capable of hitting a lefty. Add to that Genesis Cabrera, who is not dominant necessarily against lefties. Again, these are weird. They're not reverse splits. They're not, overwhelming the other way. But Genesis Cabrera this season has lefties have hit 236 against him. He's clearly better against lefties than he is against righties. But these are far more neutral numbers. They are lean righty, but they're not obvious. This isn't like the mountain of evidence that we had for putting Gregory Soto in to face Spencer Horwitz. It's more ambiguous. It's slight lean. I guess I should go the other way because I was leaning to the left. Slight lean to the right. And when it's a slight lean, when there's ambiguity, then vibes do matter. That's when the argument of, and it might, look, Rita and I yell and we love each other. When Rita says, well, analytics shouldn't be everything. You're right. In that situation, the analytics, and I'm making up numbers, might tell you it's a 58% to 42% lean. And when that's the case, I absolutely would say then vibes matter. And the vibes of put a dude in that hasn't done anything at the major league level versus the guy that's been your best hitter.
Baseball.
1,000%. Vibes matter in that moment. When the data is not ambiguous, when the data is overwhelming, when the data is completely one-sided, vibes don't matter at all. But when it's neutral or close to neutral, and it was close to neutral in the eighth inning, in that one specifically, then I would tell you, now we can talk about your vibes. I'm not going to pretend like that one decision cost the Orioles the baseball game. I don't know what the likelihood is that Colton Cowser is, hitting the dramatic grand slam or even extending the inning, scoring 2 runs with a base hit. I would feel like if it was Cowser who was pinch hit for first, like if he was the
if you brought in Slater for
for Cowser, then I might let him try to keep the inning going. I don't know, but if it was Mayo for Cowser in that spot, because Slater again at least does have a track record of hitting lefties. Mayo we have no track record with right now. That one to me was bad. And I had some feelings as it was playing out that I'm not comfortable with talking about, and I'm trying to flush them out and talk to some more sources. And I wonder if sometimes Brandon Hyde does get frustrated by we've got to do everything by the data here. And sometimes I wonder if okay, if that's the way we're going to do things, then this is what we're going to do. We'll always do. I just wonder if there's some of, and I don't even like talking about it because I have no reason to think that. It's wildly hypothetical, speculative. That one was not bad. That one was one that was fair to say, nah, nah, nope, it ain't there. Now again, I don't know if, for what it's worth, I don't know if you can pull up Genesis Cabrera's history against Colton Cowser, and if we find out that Colton Cowser was 0 for 10 against Genesis Cabrera, then in fairness, at that point, I might feel differently, but I don't think that I saw anything like that. It's okay to debate it, but what's not going to happen is they're going to go back to an era where they don't use data. It's just not going to happen. There's not yelling about Brandon Hyde isn't going to change what the Orioles do philosophically. As I've said before, there have been times over the last 6 weeks that I have wondered if things could go so poorly that it could be problematic for Brandon Hyde. Because ultimately, baseball managers are judged just by results. They're not judged by decisions, because overwhelmingly, the decisions are made for them. Not by a general manager on the phone calling down and telling them what to do, but by them being given the data. Being told, hey, you got the data, use it. I don't know that there's another manager in baseball that has more power than the front office and I don't even know that it's more power, Bruce Bochy in Texas, as much as it's like as much power. The front offices set the tone now in baseball. We talked about it with Buck a couple weeks ago. Like, that's just the game now. The decisions are largely made above you. Whatever their philosophy is, you make your decisions based on that. And if you want to debate whether or not Gregory Soto should be on this team, let's have that conversation. It don't look great at the moment. In the moment, it was confusing. Like, you're trading someone who I get we're overvaluing as a prospect because just sheerly there aren't any pitching prospects in the system, so we overvalue them.
That was Seth Johnson, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But you're trading that for someone who looks like a loogie? And again, isn't even doing that. That was questionable in the moment. The bit where everybody was saying, boy, we're taking on a lot of the Phillies' trash. Yeah, like I felt those things. Dominguez has been fine. Gave up a home run to Jose Ramirez. He joins an exclusive club of
almost everyone.
A lot of people. It was questionable in the moment. You're kind of stuck now. I don't think the Orioles can afford to just cut bait after 3 appearances. Now, it's tough because
he does not have an option.
I don't think so.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, I don't know how he could have an option. I don't know what you do here. As I said to start this out, the option in the moment could be Keegan Aiken's back on the roster because Grayson Rodriguez has to go to the IL. You live with no long man, and for like a week, you only use Gregory Soto in lower leverage situations and hope to reset him. Because you can't hide when you only have 2. That's one of the things I said. When you only have 2 left-handed pitchers in the bullpen, you don't get the option to hide one of them. They both are going to have to pitch. The notion that you can just, only use CNL Perez in those spots. There are going to be multiple spots. This bullpen ain't good enough. That's the reality. But if you do put another lefty on the roster, Keegan Aiken, then maybe you could, for a small amount of time, try to reset Gregory Soto and see if you can't figure out if he could at least, when you put him back in those spots, build up a little confidence over a few appearances, at least be a loogie again. But that's a problem. It's a problem when you're trying to win a World Series and the players aren't good enough. And we can scream about Brandon Hyde, but Brandon Hyde didn't trade for Gregory Soto. He didn't choose Gregory Soto over Keegan Aiken. But those are the players he has. And in a spot where the data says you got to go to a lefty and there's 3 innings left, and so you're probably going to need another lefty if you want to win the baseball game, that's who he could go to. That's the way it works. I mean, I can't make it something else. 1,000%. I'm not going to give you a pass to pinch hitting Kobe Mayo for Colton Cowser. I'm not. I can't do that. It just doesn't, that doesn't work. The data's not there. But the first one, right decision, wrong result. The question is, do they have the wrong baseball player?
Cowser's 0 for 1 with a hit by pitch.
There's nothing there that says he can't be in there to hit against Genesis Cabrera. I can't do it. All right. Thank you, though. I appreciate you getting me that data.
You're welcome.
Today's show is brought to you by County Sports Zone. High school sports season is just a couple of weeks away from beginning, and when it does, every score from every place in the state, every high school athletics contest, every sport, every region, every county, every level, private school, public school, you'll find it all. CountySports.zone, proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. When we come back in, we will chat more about the Orioles with Chelsea Janes. That's next. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Escape to Ocean City, Maryland, and discover a place that just feels lighter, where every day feels like Saturday and French fries are a food group, where flip-flops are always in fashion and seafood is always in season, where the boardwalk is bustling and the beach is right outside your door, where you can rise with the tide and feel like a kid again. Ocean City, Maryland, somewhere to smile about. Book your trip at OCOcean.com.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin, and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
Frederick Keys baseball is back. With 30 more home games beginning on July 2nd, the Keys are excited to welcome you back to Nimio Field at Harry Grove Stadium. We want to see you there. Countless promotions will be on display every game, with it ranging from Tap House Tuesdays to Firework Fridays and everything in between. For more information or to buy tickets, call 301-815-9939 or visit frederickkeys.com today.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. There, you just saved money with Easy Pass, all without slowing or receiving a notice in the mail. Well done, thrifty driver, well done. Get your Easy Pass at DriveEasyMD.com.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy. when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Would You Rather Wednesday edition of the program. The Would You Rather Wednesday scenarios are up at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter, Facebook.com/Glenn Clark Radio. Get your responses in. Tim Barbalace is going to join us a little bit later on and play Would You Rather Wednesday with us. And someone who participates today will win a $25 gift card to Glory Days Grill. So get your responses in now for Would You Rather Wednesday. I've been doing my best to try to avoid staring at the TV for the USA volleyball match where they've dropped the first set, and I'm not okay. I'm way too emotionally invested. Way too. We're down to one beach volleyball team left. All the women's teams are out. Just the one men's team that's left. Then I start realizing the Olympics are gone next week, and I'm back to having nothing. Is there any shows that are coming back soon that I'll be able to watch again?
Hard Knocks, obviously.
No.
I know you love training camp.
Until the AFC. Yeah, you know that's my jam. When are we getting Righteous Gemstones again? God.
That didn't like a new season.
It seems like it should be time.
Out?
No.
Okay.
Let's talk a little more about the Orioles. That's pleasant. Joining us now, she, of course, covers Major League Baseball for the Washington Post. She's our friend Chelsea Janes, and she's back with us now here on GCR. Chelsea, it's Glenn. It's always great to catch up with you. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Chelsea, I know like when you wrote about the Orioles, it was sort of the fallout from the trade deadline, and I feel like the conversation we're now dealing with today in Baltimore goes back to that, which is one of the things I constantly said in the weeks leading up to it is that, hey, sometimes injuries happen after July 31st too, and when you put together your roster on July 31st, you've got to be prepared for that. Well, the Orioles already lost Jordan Westberg after July 31st. Now the Grayson Rodriguez thing sort of looms over them. So I start to wonder if at some point, Chelsea, that as much as they've done, as much as they've tried to do, that just the totality of the bad luck they've had with injuries this season might be catching up with them in a way that makes it almost impossible to believe that they can really win a World Series.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we've learned in recent years is that the only thing that really matters when it comes to winning a World Series is having a few healthy, really good pitchers and catching fire at the right time. I think they still could do that. But, you know, I think the question of whether they had enough pitching is as true now as it was before the deadline. You know, I think Mike Elias and his people have done a really good job with this group. They have earned trust over and over again. And I also think it is fair to wonder if going into, you know, the deadline and coming out of it with Craig Kimbrell as your closer and
Right.
without another frontline starter is smart. I mean, I don't know how you do that. And so I think they have a lot of question marks, but I don't think they answered them at the deadline. And I think, you know, with the Grayson Rodriguez news, you know, and it being a shouldery thing, you know, they're hurting for sure.
I'm probably in about the same boat you are, and it's weird, Chelsea, because I can't. In the moment, I couldn't quarrel significantly with any of the moves they made. Certainly, the Soto one looks questionable at the moment, but I've got to be fair that, you know, we're looking at like basically a week's worth of evidence. That's probably not a good way to judge it. But in the moment, any one of them, like it's such a low risk to add Eloy Jimenez. I can make that make sense. You know, Dominguez, I get it. Austin Hayes, it just seemed like it wasn't going to work. Dominguez could prove to be a helpful piece. He's been fairly good so far. Eflin was the one that really did make sense because, you know, you could imagine him as a playoff pitcher. But I think the problem wasn't the moves they made. It's exactly what you said. It's that, boy, how do you look at the team and say, well, maybe they can just figure it out at the back end of the bullpen? Like, I can't say the moves they made were bad or wrong. It's just I still think they came away with a roster, and specifically that back end of the bullpen that, how do you trust that?
I don't think you can. And I think the explanations make sense, right? The market was tough, but the Padres now look like somebody you don't want to face because they traded for two back-end guys in Tanner Scott and Jason Adam, and the price was high, And maybe the Orioles are, you know, have different views of those two guys and their stuff, but the fact remains, you know, those guys didn't take any top 100 prospects either. And I think if you look at the Orioles, if you have one of those guys, let alone two, it feels a lot different. I mean, they basically have a Phillies bullpen that fell apart in the NLCS last year right now. And And these are really smart baseball people who might see things we haven't, but I remain very confused by their willingness to hit to go into the deadline and come out of it with, nothing more than Sir Anthony Dominguez and, someone they kind of need to revive in Soto.
If the argument, and they obviously they can't answer these things publicly, right? But if the argument is ultimately, hey, that we did already have an overwhelming number of injuries, we just don't know that this year is more significant than the coming years, and we don't want to touch the highest prizes that we had in the system that could alter the coming years. Could that be understandable, justifiable? Again, we'll never hear them say that, but if that was the case, can we sit back and say, hey, or does the presence of Corbin Burnes make you say, no, you really needed to value this year more than that?
I first of all would say they might not know what a bad injury season is. I don't know that this is it. I think if you're in it in first place in the American League East, then you've had a decent injury season. I think it can get a lot worse. And I think, you need to take advantage of the chances that you have. And if you don't expect to sign Corbin Burnes, like, when are you going to have a better shot than when you've got this kind of one of the best starters of this era? So again, I think there's a lot they know that we don't. I don't usually defer to that, but in their case, it's almost so perplexing that you have to. But I also think that, there is reason to believe that next year is more promising. I mean, Bradish will eventually be back. Felix Bautista is a huge game changer, right? Maybe you don't want to move a ton of stuff for a back-end bullpen guy when you've got one coming back. But it's just hard to, when I talk to people, who don't watch the Orioles regularly and kind of look from the outside in, the back into the bullpen is the question that people don't understand. I think the rotation, people understand that the frontline starters were just not there at a reasonable price. But I think the bullpen is a spot you look and kind of cringe and say, ugh, I don't know.
I would look at Urseg and say, that's a guy. Like, I look at that move and think, that's not a move that you could have made that would have been really high. That's the one that I struggle with. Chelsea Janes, Washington Post, with us here on GCR. So, the point that a lot of people make is, again, they're not in first place today because the Yankees didn't play last night, so they fell a half game behind, but they're still kind of right there. Like, what is the path now? Like, for this team to be able to, is it as simple as you've got to find a way for Craig Kimbrell to channel the 2.5 months that he was pretty good? Like, what is the path to the Orioles being the team that's hot at the right point and being the team that's capable of still winning a World Series?
I think it's still very much there. I can't overstate how much it feels like timing is key. And I think they've got this fearless group that we've seen over and over be very resilient. That even without Jordan Westberg, and particularly if you bring him back at the end of the year, if Holiday is settling in like it looks like he is, Mayo may take a few weeks, but he'll be fine. I mean, that's a really, really good lineup. And it's a lineup that's pretty fearless, I think, that has shown itself to be able to stage a lot of comebacks and be in every game. And, I think that matters. I think it matters even when you run into some of the good pitching staffs you're going to see later. And if you look at the Yankees and their other teams in the American League, it's not like you're 100% certain that they've got it all together either. I don't think there's, anyone there that you're looking at thinking we can't, beat them right now. Certainly not in the West. And, the Guardians look good, but they continue to be play a little bit above their weight maybe. So I think they're very much still in it. I think the deadline stuff, that factors in because maybe they could have been in a better position, but I don't think that means they're in a bad one by any means.
Is there any concern to you at all that it could start to go the other way? Like I feel like that was sort of like I had some of those feelings, Chelsea, after the first 2 games of the Guardians series. Like, boy, there is maybe some danger that this really starts to go the other way. Then they turn around and win 2 games against the Guardians, the best team in the American League, and you're like, well, all right, maybe I was getting a little carried away there. I don't know. I struggle with just the sheer overwhelming nature of losing already 3 starting pitchers and potentially a 4th now. Like, all of this, there is that sort of thing in the back of my mind, like, maybe it just isn't meant to be, and it could go sideways in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I think that the way things go sideways is usually when starting pitching falls apart. And I think, that's what they're on the verge of. But, in some ways,
maybe Trevor Rogers can save them, Chelsea. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, look, with them, I never count out, improving a guy. I bet that guy becomes a really good 3-4, with a couple months of Orioles tutelage. But I think, Burns has been letting teams back into games a little bit. If Rodriguez is out for a substantial time, then I think that's when you're really going to be white knuckling it. But again, I don't see that many teams that aren't, I mean, it's not, a particularly stable sort of race in many ways outside of Cleveland. So I think, they could fall apart, but I think there's enough playoff margin that, they're going to be okay to get there. And then once you're there, it's just a total luck kind of deal, I think.
Chelsea, I apologize if this is something that you and I have talked about before, and I've just, I really do, because I really appreciate our conversations. There's this sort of weird obsession with a sect of Orioles fans about the reliance of data to drive decisions that are made by Brandon Hyde. And I hate that I end up speaking to this really small sect, and I feel like I should just be more ignoring of it, but I feel like it's a bigger baseball conversation, and Buck and I talked about it recently, which is like the managers largely aren't really – like they're making the decisions, and that someone has to be the one that says this is what we're doing, but it overwhelmingly feels like the organization is setting the tone for this. Like, you have the data, use it. And, there's consternation. Last night they put Gregory Soto in. The data is overwhelming. You should have a lefty to face Spencer Horwitz. Birch Smith was the pitcher. He does not have good numbers against lefties. Like, the data's overwhelming, but it doesn't work out. And I just wondered, like, knowing everything that you know about the Orioles, organizationally and about baseball in general, how much it's even worth talking about these things, because it just doesn't feel like these are actual decisions that are being made anymore versus here's how we do things. You have the data. Now do what you know you're supposed to do in these spots.
Yeah, I do think that there are a lot of managers, and I do think Hyde is one of them, who, nominally and publicly will say, this is up to me, this is my call, but realistically are making that call based on more data than ever. I think the Orioles tend to have great numbers and people who are good at interpreting them, and I think that's a huge part of it. So, is it there? I think it's there, but I also think, think of who you're talking about. You're talking about Gregory Soto and Birch Smith. I mean, the data says that you need better relievers, I think. So, I think that, to me, like when you get, first of all, I know the Orioles, it sounds condescending to say so, but like worrying about the state of your bullpen in a pennant race is such a sign that the Orioles have arrived and are going to be around a while. I mean, that's just like that's absolute contender stuff. So, in some ways, big picture, this is a great problem for everyone. But I think also, like, ultimately, Brandon Hyde's having to kind of cook with less than quality ingredients right now. And whatever the data says, I think the outcomes are, I don't know how much you can put on them. You'd need a magic wand to sort of make all of that work right now. And, but it's not to say it doesn't matter. I think that there are ways in which data makes things really hard on managers who, because, it's not that the thought's taken out of it, it's that, the feel gets taken out of it. But in this case, it's just hard to, I don't know what they're supposed to do, because it just doesn't look like the options are quite the quality that you would want back there.
At Chelsea_Janes is, of course, how you follow her on Twitter, WashingtonPost.com. Chelsea, is there anything else that I can plug for you?
No, that's it. It's hard to recommend anything more than that, so thank you.
I really appreciate it, as always, you taking the time for us. Look forward to doing it again real soon. Thanks for hopping on this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Chelsea Janes with us here on GCR, and appreciate, there's only so many ways to say it. And her point is the best takeaway, the data says you need better relievers. Yeah. Yeah. Like 100%. That's what the data says. The data says you ain't got the horses. Now, that's what you got. You can't invent them now. You can't go into a lab and say, let's cook up a higher leverage 7th-inning option. You got what you got. And I do think it's fair to criticize. I said that. That was the column I wrote the morning after the trade deadline. I can't quarrel with the moves that were made. The Soto one looks bad right now. But there's lots of time. That can change. I can't quarrel with the moves that were made, but I can quarrel with the construction of the roster after the moves. I start to worry, and we continue to wait on Grayson Rodriguez news, but I do start to worry about ultimately, is there a point at which the totality is too much? Chelsea says, well, if you're still in first place, then, like, it could be worse. And it could. My buddy Matt Torper message was something along those lines earlier today. Said, the starting pitcher position in baseball is starting to resemble running backs in football, and that injuries are a constant problem, and you just need to stockpile gobs of serviceable bodies. It's a quantity over quality position these days because these injuries are so prevalent now. The Rays dealt with this last year. At some point, some analytics nerd is going to figure out that it might be better to have 10 Kyle Gibson 4.4 ERA types backed up by an elite defense than one or two aces who are always at risk of injury. A bland defense and a bunch of 6 Sidney Ponson ERA types at the back end of the rotation. Well, I don't think anybody's arguing for having, a dreadful back end of the rotation. I think ideally you have those Kyle Gibson types at the back end of your rotation, and you have, a couple of top guys, so that you default to worst case scenarios. We have a bunch of those guys. I get the argument is have 8 starting pitchers. In fairness, the Dodgers were kind of doing that for years. Like, just have 8 starting pitchers. Figure it out. Like, starting pitchers can do anything. Just have a ton of them. I still don't know ultimately what I don't know how that impacts today. Like, today it doesn't change anything. You're in the situation that you're in. It's a depressing show today. I could really go for a pick-me-up. Anything. Could you give me anything? I could really use, I don't think there was a touch on that. I'm pretty sure they're going to lose that challenge. Yeah, there was definitely no touch on that. It wasn't even close. Could really use, the U.S. winning this set of volleyball. Just something positive for me to feel.
There was a wrestler that won gold yesterday.
I saw that. Allure?
Yes.
Yeah.
Amit Allure.
She's very good. She's very good. That,
yeah.
unfortunately, is not. I told you, I'm not into but I'm not into individual sports. I'm a team sport guy at the Olympics. So,
well, the
other than Kyle Snyder, I'll be in for Kyle Snyder.
Yes, the U.S. basketball team
won. That did happen, but I assumed they were going to win. It's very difficult for me to get too excited about a U.S. men's basketball team win because they're supposed to do that. We come back in. We'll talk more about Grayson Rodriguez. Our buddy Will Carroll, under the knife, the injury expert. He will try to explain more to us about what's going on. What is a Therese? What's happening here?
He'll end our season or or continue.
Hanging by a thread right now. I'm on the ledge. Will, save me. Do that next. Glenn Clark Radio.
Frederick Keys baseball is back. With 30 more home games beginning on July 2nd, the Keys are excited to welcome you back to Nimio Field at Harry Grove Stadium. We want to see you there. Countless promotions will be on display every game, with it ranging from Tap House Tuesdays to Firework Fridays and everything in between. For more information or to buy tickets, call 301-815-9939 or visit frederickkeys.com today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver, an antenna reads your EasyPass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your EasyPass account. Learn more at driveeasymd.com.
Hagerstown, Maryland, a snapshot of American history that dates back centuries. Today, the roots of the city expand with another historical moment, the grand opening of Meredith Park, Hagerstown's new event stadium and home to the Atlantic League Flying Boxcars. Experience the energy, culture, and adventure. Plan your getaway today at America's newest and most innovative ballpark. You're welcome in Hagerstown, Maryland. Visit Hagerstown.com.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their legendary fat, delicious, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. It's crab season, so sit back and crack some crabs while watching the Birds pursue another divisional title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday night, the Costas Inn offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30. So head on down to the Costas Inn today at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at CostasInn.com.
There he is, Agent 00 Chicken. Nothing can keep him from Royal Farms Chicken Palooza. Because right now, he can get a 3-piece world-famous chicken box for just $8 with a portion of each sale donated to a local charity. Plus, register to win world-famous chicken for a year. Come to Royal Farms Chicken Palooza. It's a real thriller, but it's only for a limited time. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Escape to Ocean City, Maryland, and discover a place that just feels lighter, where every day feels like Saturday and French fries are a food group, where flip-flops are always in fashion and seafood is always in season, where the boardwalk is bustling and the beach is right outside your door, where you can rise with the tide and feel like a kid again. Ocean City, Maryland, somewhere to smile about. Book your trip at OCOcean.com.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Would You Rather Wednesday edition of the program. Today's show is also brought to you by the print issue of Press Box. Final days for this print issue. Get to your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of those hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. You can read it all at PressBoxOnline.com. That's the governor, Wes Moore, on the cover. Go get it before it's gone. When Stan's in here on Friday, maybe we'll tease what the next print issue of Press Box is all about, as we are in the final stages of putting that one together. And we'll be available. When's the next print issue hitting, Stans, John? Wednesday, Thursday. Next week? Yep. Next Wednesday or Thursday. That's how we do things around here. Ish. That's dynamite. There's nothing that we are better at than nailing it. You think Simone Biles sticks the landing? Hello. We're Mr. Stick the Landing over here. Oh, the 15th is a Friday, John. Thursday, not a Friday. So that's the day? That's the day. This is what you do now. You just get to listen to our office conversations. It's a new segment on Glenn Clark Radio. Find out what's going on in the company. You and I get to find out. What? It's not bad.
Good idea.
It's not bad.
A new segment every day?
Next Friday. What's that thing where I start talking and I realize I don't know? Like, I just keep saying, well, it's happening soon, but I don't know. Normally it's the 15th, but some months I find out it's the 17th. Some months I find out it's another date. What? What do you want? There's John Colson.
It's always the 15th.
It's not always the 15th.
Except,
no, you're lying.
Hold on. Except when it's not.
Exactly. Thank you. Which is why I can't comfortably say it's the 15th.
Well, if the 15th is on a weekend.
That obviously makes sense. But even when it's not on a weekend sometimes. Not just December. There was one recently that was not the 15th.
It was the 17th because of a weekend.
No, it wasn't because of a weekend. It just wasn't the 15th.
Or a holiday.
Or something.
No, it might have been like Memorial Day or something that throws that off. It's printers, old school.
We didn't come out with an issue in May, so I don't think it was a Memorial Day.
I was working. I'm taking. Come on, man. Give me some love here. Hey, how about that 1500?
That was cool. That was cool. You know, I'm not.
I know you don't like
it's
the
not
individual sports. How could you
aren't my
not
thing.
like
No,
that?
but like when I watch them, it's cool. Like I do get it, dude. I did see the 200, like Gabby Thomas. I saw that live yesterday, and like I saw the 100 live, and that was that was obviously
World's Fastest Man's always pretty cool.
Dude, there was somebody yesterday who was like, "How can you call yourself the world's fastest man when you only won by 5/100ths of a?" I'm like, because you're the world's fastest man.
By 5/100.
This isn't hard. Like we're trying so hard.
I still debate your finish in that run you did. Didn't you do some run where you insisted you were the winner of your...
I was like the 25th fastest man in the city or something.
Okay,
like that.
there you go.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I don't make the rules. If you're not in the race, you don't get to say. Like
fair.
nobody who didn't run in the 100 gets to walk around and say, "Well, I'm faster."
Well, but every fastest person in the world ran in that. I'm going to say that every fastest person in Baltimore didn't. Yeah, I do know that.
You don't know that. There could be somebody who's not competing.
That's
that
faster.
Just happens to be fast. Get out of here.
Okay,
bye. Thank you for stopping by. That's John Coles. They were yelling at me because I was like, I'm the 25th fastest man in Annapolis. They're like, no, you're not. I'm like, I ran the race. Did you? I don't make the rules. It says I'm the 25th fastest. I'm surprised by it too. Let's make that abundantly clear.
I'll have to run next time.
Okay, so you can try to screw that up.
I bet I'm at least 19th then.
Is that what you think you are? I'm sorry. Will Carroll. Let's. We were doing pleasant things. We were having fun, and now we're gonna have to go back to not having fun again. I hate the fact because Will and I used to do like weekly baseball conversations, and they were always fun and pleasant. But now when we talk, it's for unpleasant reasons. He is the injury expert. He is Mr. Under the Knife. Will Carroll. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
I try to at least be educational.
I appreciate
a little
it.
entertaining, if not pleasant.
Will, I love hearing your voice. You've been a friend for a very long time. I love you. I just don't like that this is your role now, so that when we talk, I know we're not talking about pleasant things. Like I
get it. I'm the Grim Reaper.
It's killing me now. All right, so I read the Under the Knife newsletter today, and I guess the reality is, as we talked about, it's hard to know a lot right now because we're still waiting on the imaging and the grade. But talk me through what the potential scenarios could be based on what we learned with Grayson Rodriguez.
The easy thing to get here is that, a lot of times we have to go, well, this injury is like that injury. And they're never identical because it's different people. With this one, we have the perfect comp. Grayson Rodriguez had something similar to this a couple of years ago. Downside here is it cost him 3 months. Different situation. He was a hot prospect. He was in Norfolk. Yeah, they're going to be uber careful with somebody like that because they wanted to get him to this point. He did have some shoulder issues earlier this season. And those kind of thrown off games, he's had 3 games where he's had 6 or 7 runs allowed. That sort of suggests to me, with the velocity drops he had in those games, that they're having to maintain him along the way, that they're having to do stuff, treatments and massage and recovery work. Every pitcher does that. But if there's an issue, if there's something that you have to manage, think, a lot of people have back spasms or a hip problem or very tight muscles. The medical staff has to maintain you through the season. It's not going to always work. The body reacts in different ways, different things. The workload is different. So he's had this issue for a while. The fact that he knows his own body and was enough, there was a clip pretty much showing that he said, I don't feel right. He at least understands that and hopefully stopped the more severe grades of damage in the muscle.
That's what I wanted to ask. Is there a risk of a worse case scenario than the one that you just presented?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if this is a significant tear, he could be out for months and effectively end his season. So it's going to come down to the grade and the location. Because the latissimus dorsi, it is one of the biggest muscles in the body and the big muscle of the back. If you think, with the Olympics going on, and you see those giant, watch the back of a swimmer. They just have those well-defined lats. Even the women, it looks like they almost have wings behind them because those muscles build up, especially for breaststroke and fly. So obviously for a pitcher, a muscle of the upper back and shoulder is very often, surprisingly, the weak link. We focus so much on the deltoid. We focus so much on making sure the rotator cuff and the elbow doesn't break down, that there's always going to be a weak link in the chain. And we've seen more and more, going back to Steven Strasburg, and we had a lot of Terry's majors like Corey Kluber a couple of years ago. The upper location of this, if I pointed to where Grayson Rodriguez's injury was and said, what part of the body is this? Most people are going to say shoulder.
I've never heard,
So
by the way,
a lot
I
of
swear to
people
God,
get
Will,
confused.
until yesterday, I had never heard of the term Terez. Like, the number of people in Baltimore that are pretending like they're somehow Terez experts that I swear to God had never heard the word before in their life is overwhelming. I had never heard that word in my life until last night.
Well, it's actually a really good cut of steak.
Okay. All right.
I always use barbecue terms. It throws people off when cows and humans have very similar muscle types, but it's true. So it's one of those situations where, everybody confuses Terry's major and Terry's minor because, honestly, they don't know what the heck either of them is. Terry's minor is part of the rotator cuff. The Terry's major is just the bigger one up there at the top. But this is a lat strain. I'm 99% sure of it, talking to sources this morning.
Okay.
They're waiting on the imaging, and there's such a wide range of outcomes. This could be anything from he only skips a start to his season is done. So it's tough to kind of zone in on this until we do get that grading from the imaging today.
He is Will Carroll, the injury expert. He is with us here on GCR. By the way, if I came out to visit you, could we get a Terrace Major steak at Elmo's? Is that, or do you have a better place that we would go?
Oh, yeah, better than Elmo's? I mean, there are some.
I spent a lot of time at Harry and Izzy's
steakhouse.
back. When I used to go out there, I spent a lot of time at Harry and Izzy's when I was out there.
Harry and Izzy's is basically Junior St. Elmo. They actually share a kitchen.
Oh, I didn't know that. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's the same exact kitchen. Comes out of both places.
Oh, that's wild.
So, Indianapolis is like the steakhouse capital of the world for some reason.
Yeah.
I think we have 10 good ones, so we could go to a new one every night.
Oh, I'm all in. We spent a lot of time at the Canterbury while we were there. I don't know why. It was very old. Like,
you know what it's famous for.
Mike Tyson, correct. Yes.
Mike Tyson,
I am quite aware. Who's one of America's sweethearts with Snoop Dogg and Flavor Flav, because...
Exactly. How did that happen?
Go explain that to 1993 version of us. Go try to make that make sense. All right. So, okay. If we hear what today, the scenario that you just laid out about, maybe he only skips. What is it that, like, in a perfect world, Orioles fans hear today that if we do, we might as well go ahead and get the streamers and it's best case scenario?
Yeah, the lower the grade, the better. Grade 3 almost never happens. Granted, we had one last night when Bristar Graterol came back through 8 pitches and then literally tore his hamstring off the bone. Grade 3 means the muscle is completely torn. It's not just a little strain in the muscle. That thing popped. So we're not going to hear that. That's not it. It's whether it's a grade 1 or a grade 2. If it's a grade 1, he can come back in a matter of weeks. Again, I am assured that this is a maintenance issue, that they have to get back to a point where he has that shoulder feeling good. And they've been there for much of the season. He's been very, very good. And if they can get, that top 3, you figure, going into the playoffs with Burns and Eflin and Rodriguez, that's formidable. That's a good thing. So all they have to do is get him back to that point where he's not saying he doesn't feel right.
We didn't talk, a couple weeks. There was just so much going on around the trade deadline, Will. But like last week, obviously Jordan Westberg suffers the broken hand. The thought was he could be back. Does it smell right to you that the timeline would make sense for him to be back before the postseason?
Yeah. Bones heal. This is one of my core things for Under the Knife is bones heals. Takes about 6 weeks. There's nothing you can do. When you break a collarbone, 6 weeks. You break a leg, 6 weeks. You break a hand, 6 weeks. They go in and pin these things sometimes, and that's basically to make sure it heals correctly. It does not make it go any faster. We've tried everything. If you broke your arm back in the 80s, you probably remember those bone stimulators they would put on everything. Didn't work. They've tried osteoporosis drugs to try to make the bones heal faster. Doesn't work. There's just nothing but time that heals bones, but they heal. It's always 6 weeks. And for hands, the two things I always say is it's when you get the grip strength back, because you can't move it around very much during the first couple of weeks. You do lose strength, and grip strength is everything for hitting. The other is these don't have to happen. These flat out don't have to happen. All you need is a padded glove. Cricket balls are harder than baseballs. They've been wearing giant padded gloves for years over there. Hasn't hurt anybody, and literally hasn't hurt anybody. They haven't had a broken hand in major test play in over 10 years.
Okay.
Why don't baseball players wear it? Oh, it doesn't look cool. Guess what? Shohei Ohtani's wearing one.
Yeah.
He looks cool. Don't you want to be like Shohei Ohtani?
Anything that Shohei Ohtani wears would look cool, though. In fairness.
Exactly. I just don't get. I mean, today I was talking about this. I was watching last night, and a catcher just took a foul tip right off the thigh, and with this one leg down style, I was like, well, why don't you have like a football style thigh pad there? Why has nobody but me thought of this? How much could I sell those for? So
that's a really good point.
We'll see.
And isn't the conversation too that like with the new posture of catchers, they're like way more exposed? Like we saw that like Adley took one off the groin the other day, and like isn't like the idea now that like with the new posture of catchers, you're way more exposed in those situations?
I don't think the crotch is more exposed, and that's always everybody's fear. And there's been some fairly serious injuries, even with really good cups. I just don't get why you would stick your leg down and not think, you know what, I'm putting the pad on the ground. Maybe I should put the pad where the ball keeps hitting me.
Yeah, it seems like a heck of a thought, Will. It just seems like something. All right, just to wrap this, the bottom line is we're waiting a word about the grade. If it's grade 1, we're feeling good. We're feeling like a bullet has been dodged. It was good of Grayson to recognize it. If it's worse than that, then we go from there. But there still might be a scenario with the grade 2 where it's not season ending. Like it just might be a few weeks, and then you try to get him back before the season's over.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to this is oversimplifying it, so don't clip this off. But a grade 1 is going to be
don't tweet
weeks,
this, Griffin.
And a grade 2 is going to be months.
Okay. All right. We
and
will.
Month, I don't think a grade 2 immediately ends his season. I think it makes it tougher, and there's certainly going to be a gap. Again, he had a similar injury a couple of years ago, missed 3 months. I don't think it's going to be that long. 6 weeks, 8 weeks, maybe.
All right, let's remind everybody about Under the Knife.
You can read Under the Knife and read all about Grayson Rodriguez ahead of the paywall, or go $5 a month at undertheknife.substack.com.
Brother, I truly love you, and I hope you know that. You know, like you've been good to me.
I do.
You've been good to me for years. I have always enjoyed our conversations. You're one of my favorite people. I based on what you're doing now, I hope we're not talking again very soon. All right? Like I just hope
I agree.
I hope that you understand that's where I am, but it's not because I don't love you, man. You're the best.
Exactly. Thanks a lot, Glenn.
At Injury Expert on Twitter. Will, thanks, buddy. Will Carroll. He's great. It's just not fun. It's unpleasant when we have to have these conversations. I don't like doing this, but that's sort of what we're waiting on, as Grayson Rodriguez was sent back to Baltimore today to find out a little bit more, and once we learn the imaging, then we can sort of go from there. USA Volleyball did win the second set, so I at least have that going for me. I don't have a lot. I'm still very on edge. Not handling things well, but they did win the second set, and they're up in the third. They're trying to bring me back to Zen. Trying to fang that shui.
You think it's working?
I'll be on edge until we get the Grayson Rodriguez news. I'll be on edge until then.
So probably the sooner we end the show, that's when the news will come out.
That's normally the way that it works. Typically, or we stay on until like 1 o'clock.
Right.
And then maybe we might be on when they make like an Austin Hayes trade. Maybe. That's the only time that we've actually been on when the news came out. And again, remember, like I spent the entire time just saying, like, dude, can you make sense of this? Like my initial, how rare is it that my first thought ended up being exactly right? Like my first thought there was like, okay, Dominguez, sure, but what? Like, what am I missing on Pache? What? And it turns out the answer was nothing. I wasn't missing anything on Pache at all, despite the fact that people spent the entire afternoon fighting with me about it. I was missing nothing. But I wish him well. I have no ill will towards Christian Pache. I wish him. Miami, is that where he ended up? Where did he end up? I think it was Miami.
Yes, it was.
We'll always have the memory of the day that they traded for him.
Him in a City Connect uniform.
Yeah, he did also have that infield hit. Like, he did have one infield hit as a Baltimore Oriole.
Thought I was going to buy him at least a week.
Well, if it hadn't been the week of the trade deadline, you might have been right. Unfortunately, when you have the opportunity to get Austin Slater, like, you just can't. You can't pass on that. What are we doing? What are we? Oh, Tim Barbalace. We're gonna play Would You Rather Wednesday, right? That's what's coming up. Well, then I guess we'll do that. Today's show brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Sports and Social is the best place to watch all of the big events, whether it's Paris, whether it's baseball, whether it's, I guess, preseason football. I shudder to include that in big events. All of the UFC fights, all of the big boxing matches, all of them. You can watch them right there at Sports and Social, and those you don't have to pay a penny for. You can reserve a spot, then take advantage of that giant so you can have, like, the fight on. There's not one this week. I mean, there's a lesser card. There's a fight night card.
Got a good old Apex card this week.
Oh, we love those.
Can't wait.
When's the next real fight?
I believe in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. So that one, you go there. You're taking off your day. You're not going to be here for your day. Wait, made it
very tough. Yeah,
really screwed that one up. Griffin just had an entire vacation. Is like, sorry, can't be there tomorrow. Starting to wonder. Are you quiet quitting? Just tell me.
No,
if you're quiet
quitting,
just say.
Yeah, I'll give you a heads up if I'm quiet.
Yeah, when you're quiet quitting,
I'll loudly quit. Don't worry.
You're gonna burn it all down. Wow, it's bold. All of a sudden, we see a different guy. Everybody's always like, Griffin's such a nice guy. I'm like, well, the thing is, he burned down the studio. So it's normally those types, though.
They're in Perth next weekend.
Perth. And
yes, that is Dricus Duplessis and Israel Adesanya.
Oh.
Yeah, big one.
Oh. But that's a pay-per-view?
Yes.
Okay, so not this weekend. I thought you said it was 2 weeks. The 17th.
Yeah, so
the 17th.
Okay, so not a full 2 weeks, but yeah.
17th is the next pay-per-view. And what time are they doing it?
That one they're doing in I guess you want to say prime time, our time, so 10 p.m.
Okay, so I don't know what time that is in Perth. That's probably
what time would that
probably
be
like late morning, early afternoon in Perth.
Like not 5 a.m. but
no, not that, not
ideal,
not great. Anyway, the moral of the story being, watch it inside Sports and Social for free. Take advantage of the giant media wall, so whatever else is going on that day, you can also watch those things. And you're just steps away from the FanDuel Sportsbook, and you can get all your bets in. On top of that, Live Casino Rewards members have the opportunity to earn discounts on cash and credit purchases at the casino. Join the Live Casino Rewards Club online or in person at Live today. See complete details, livecasinohotel.com. Tim Barbalace, Would You Rather Wednesday, next. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Experience the thrill of the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, coming October 17th to the 20th. See the world's best equestrians compete in the sport of eventing, the ultimate test of horse and rider. Enjoy a weekend festival featuring locally sourced food at the Fresh Food Fest, a beer, wine, and spirits showcase, shopping, and fun for all ages. Check out the Maryland Corgi Cup, interactive kids corner, and more. It's the place to be in October. Visit maryland5star.us for tickets.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their legendary fat, delicious, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. It's crab season, so sit back and crack some crabs while watching the Birds pursue another divisional title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday night, the Costas Inn offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30. So head on down to the Costas Inn today at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at costasinn.com.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin, and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
There he is, Agent 00 Chicken. Nothing can keep him from Royal Farms Chicken Palooza. Because right now, he can get a 3-piece world-famous chicken box for just $8 with a portion of each sale donated to a local charity. Plus, register to win world-famous chicken for a year. Come to Royal Farms Chicken Palooza. It's a real thriller, but it's only for a limited time. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now, and on the cover, Glenn Clark and Stan the Fan Charles sit down for a sports conversation with Maryland Governor Wes Moore, discussing the Orioles and Ravens stadium leases, the future of horse racing in Maryland, and how his own football career at Johns Hopkins shaped him as a leader. This is also our annual travel issue with information about sports tourism opportunities in Maryland for your family to take advantage of throughout the summer. Press Box is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farm stores, or you can read the entire issue at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
I feel like they should get a camera on me for this. I'm watching the volleyball.
Basically,
and
and Rowdy Gaines is what we need.
Yeah, he's awesome. I love Rowdy Gaines. God, it's sad that we don't have any Baltimore swimmers anymore. Chase Kalish won a gold medal the last Olympics, so I don't want to pile on Chase Kalish too much, but didn't medal. He didn't even make the final this time. Because bringing on Rowdy Gaines as a guest was just so much fun. I loved having him on the show because he rules. But they keep cutting. They're in the volleyball match. They keep cutting back to some random bar somewhere where I guess there's some connection between these people and the USA volleyball team. I don't know what it is because I clearly don't have the sound on. But I just wish that they could do that, because I'm telling you, if they did that with me in this studio during volleyball, rugby, these different sports. Water polo yesterday, I was losing my mind about the water polo match. There's a couple of things that I've come away from, topics that I feel strongly about related to the Olympics. Water polo is the most difficult sport. Rugby's close because rugby's the most physical, but Jesus Christ. Water polo, the rule is you got to try to score. The person on the other side is literally trying to end your life. Whenever they cut to the underwater camera in water polo, whenever they go to that one, all you see is just punching and kicking, and they're all just murdering each other.
So that's what's allowed.
It's not technically allowed, but how much of it can that's just all they're doing is constant. And on every possession, they're calling multiple fouls because it's all anyone's doing. And part of it, I don't even think is intended, but you're also trying to tread water at the same time. So you might fall into a person. Yo, water polo's nuts. I love it. I'm all in on the water polo. That's the one that I have truly gained the greatest appreciation for during these Olympics. Bring up Barbalace for a second. I don't know if Barbalace watches any of these things. Hi, Tim Barbalace, Inside Access, 105.7 The Fan.
Can we just talk water polo?
Sure, by all means. I'm all in.
Dude, it is electric. Dude, I mean, anytime I'm watching the Olympics and it's on, I'm glued to the TV. I mean, that is peak athleticism. You're treading water the entire time, and like you said, Glenn, you got the opposing team basically just trying to end your life and drown you.
They want you to be dead the entire, and it's all a competition of what can we get away with. That's all that water polo is. And it went down to a last-minute goal in the U.S.-Hungary match yesterday. I was losing it. In fact, I was at the gym when it was going on. I purposely went to the bathroom.
Humble brag.
Yes, because you know me. Perfect physique. I went to the bathroom so that I could be by myself and not. We have those unisex bathrooms at my gym. Like, or the not unisex. What do you call multi-sex? Like the things that they're one bathroom. Both genders can use it, but it's just one. It's a one-person bathroom. They have like 6 of those at my gym, and I went into one of those so I could be by myself. Like I just wanted to watch the end of the water polo match because I was that amped up about it. What I gain more and more appreciation for every time I get invested in volleyball. And I'm very invested in volleyball this time around. I gain more and more appreciation for how much fun they're having. It's by far and away the most fun sport. Like, clearly, I could have never been good enough nor tall enough that I could have played volleyball. But, like, damn, dude, they're hugging after every point. Like, they couldn't, they couldn't be having more fun. Like,
you somehow get an ace, and then, like, everyone gets in. I mean, the vibes are always good for volleyball.
They're screaming after everybody. Yeah. Like, they're doing dances. They're all in. I think they started a conga line at one point between points. I swear to God, the U.S. team was playing leapfrog after a block. Like, it's the best time. It was like in a Superbad when he looked over and Evan was partnered with the Asian kid whose name I'm forgetting. And they were like, they look like they're having the time of their lives. And he's pretending to be a tiger. He's like doing the whole thing. Like, that's what it looks like every time I watch volleyball. They couldn't be having more fun. Even the team that loses the point is hugging afterwards. And like, I love you, man. Like, it just looks like the best time ever every time I watch volleyball.
And they're just like throwing their body all over the place. And I always love the people that are running up to do the fake spike, and then the real spiker comes.
6 things happening.
It's just electric.
Dude, remember in middle school, you would all like stay in your positions on the court. They would put like 6 people, and you wouldn't. Like, you're like, okay, this is my square. And then you watch real volleyball, and you're like, there are no positions. Like, you're somehow supposed to understand why this person is wearing a different colored shirt. I don't. Oh, God bless it.
It's like a completely different sport.
That guy just took a shot to the face. It's awesome, man.
Oh, no.
I love volleyball. All right. Now let's get into it. Before we get to Would You Rather Wednesday, let's just talk about it, because I have no doubt that when you guys sit down at 2 o'clock today, one of your co-hosts is just going to start screaming and losing his mind.
You're talking about Ken or me?
It's you and Ken. Where are you with because like it's a very difficult conversation for me to have. There are so many elements to everyone that loses their mind about Brandon Hyde. And like, look, my partner, I love Rita. She's one of my best friends. She and I fight about it constantly. The dismissiveness towards data in general, I just can't imagine us being in 2024 in baseball and treating it that way, which doesn't mean that I agree with every decision that's made, right? Like last night, not all of those things are made equal. The Soto one, I get it. We don't have any faith in Soto, but everything about the data, every layer of the data said that was the move to make. I cannot criticize it. There is nothing that I go back and look at it and say, I can second guess that one fairly. I can't. It's just we don't like the result. When we don't like the result, we want to say, you could have just let Birch Smith face the next guy. Birch Smith left-handed hitters are hitting 349 off of Birch Smith. That makes you can't vibe your way to it. But I can criticize. There isn't data justification for Mayo over Cowser. Like, I can look at it all differently. It's so much more complicated than we make it out to be when we just say derp Brandon Hyde.
I'm with you 100% with all of that. I mean, Soto's just not producing. I mean, it's been 3 appearances for him, and it's been really, really ugly. But look, the 2 pinch hitting situations in the 8th inning. You have Jackson Holliday, who's been, for the week that he's been back up, their hottest hitter right now. You end up pinch hitting Austin Slater there, but it didn't backfire. I mean, Slater, it was a workday walk there, so I can't
and
get
everybody
all
being
up
mad
in
at Brandon
arms.
Hyde because he said the wrong thing after the game. Like he said, Austin Slater.
Oh yeah, about how he hits lefties.
We know what the point is. Austin Slater hasn't hit anything well this year. He has a career track record of hitting lefties. Like that. That's the point. The point, you're arguing semantics for the sake of arguing semantics because you've decided dirt Brandon Hyde. But like the point is the point.
I also think if you wanted Kobe Mayo in, Ramon Urias is a 232 career hitter against left-handed pitching, and that was 1, 2, 3. Thanks for showing up, Ramon. Walking back to the dugout there. I mean, that could have been Colton Cowser have been riding a 17-game hitting streak. Genesis Cabrera, he's got reverse play. I mean, lefties have a higher OPS against him this year, 817 OPS, where righties have a 778. And to put Kobe Mayo in that situation, the bases loaded, 1 out, searching for his first career hit, I don't know, man. I mean, that just seemed a little aggressive, subbing him in for a Colton Cowser there. That was the move that was egregious to me.
It can't be defended. The numbers do not back that up. And look, the numbers probably still say like it's like 55-45 that it's the benefit of a right-handed hitter, right? Like there's still probably a slight lean towards a right-handed hitter, but that's when it's that neutral, then you can bring the vibes argument into the conversation, right? Like if it's neutral, then let's to the point talk about Kobe Mayo's never had a major league hit. Colton Cowser is that stuff does matter. Once the data is more neutral, that stuff plays. When the data is overwhelming, stop it with the Bert Smith has been pretty good. Like you're debasing yourself. You're just saying I don't know what I'm talking about. When the data is neutral, though, I'm completely in agreement. The bigger problem I have about these conversations is, like, the derp Brandon Hyde stuff. If Brandon Hyde's not the manager, the Yale-educated front office of the Baltimore Orioles is not turning to a manager that's going to suddenly not look at the data. Like
you're not bringing Buck Showalter back in and an old school manager like that. No, it's you're 100% right.
This is the way it's going to be with Mike Elias and his regime in Baltimore. And again, we can
without question.
I think it's very fair to argue and debate when the data isn't there. Again, I will talk about the Mayo. I think that deserves criticism, and I have even like some wild theories about that. That like as I've said to people before. I don't know that in a perfect world, Brandon Hyde wants to be the guy that always has to just fall back on, hey, the data says this, right? Like, I think that he would like to freewheel it a little bit more and vibes it sometimes. Like, I do think that, like, in his nature, he would like to be that guy. But that's not the job he was hired to do. And it's not going to be the job that anyone will be hired to do while Mike Elias is the general manager. So, like, it's such wasted breath to me when we have these conversations. Like I don't know what we're talking about. If you want to fairly criticize a decision, let's fairly criticize it. I couldn't believe it was happening in the moment. In fact, I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to embarrass myself and then like go find out that, like Colton Cowser's 0 for 10 all time against Genesis Cabrera. So, like he's 0 for 1. It's just not there, right? Like it's just not there.
And trust me, Glenn, I am extremely reaching here for trying to find some shred that, the data. We know that Colton Cowser has not been good all year long in late and close situations, in clutch situations, runners in scoring position, those type of things.
Right.
But you're bringing in a guy who is 0 for 9 in his career, who doesn't even have that type of track record. It's not like you're bringing in Jordan Westberg, who's the Orioles' clutchest hitter. That's the thing that one I can't defend.
No, there's no defense of it whatsoever. It was bad. But the dirt Brandon Hyde stuff is just, it's like, again, make decisions. Decisions I'll debate and we can question. But like, you're just this notion that like somehow there's going to be a manager of this team in the future that's not going to be analytic driven or data driven.
Never happened.
It's sorry. And again, I don't know that there are 5 teams in baseball that are going to do that. This obsession that a small sect of us have with Bruce Bochy, that's the one.
Yeah.
And while, yes, Bruce Bochy has won 4 World Series, like that's happened, he's also a 500 manager for his life. Like, there's not this overwhelming evidence that Bruce Bochy freewheeling and going with his gut has proven that that's what makes him great. I can't tell you that that's how he's won 4 World Series, again, versus like Tim Lincecum and Madison Bumgarner and Buster Posey. Like this thing with this obsession with Bruce Bochy is bizarre, man.
Well, and I'll also say this, Glenn, and I'll break some news on your show. The further along we get, 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, we're not going to suddenly go in reverse and say, you know what, let's just go back to the vibes of it all. Like, let's just ignore all of the numbers as we continue to get more analytics. And it's only going to skew the direction that the O's are going.
It doesn't mean that I don't think that within that there isn't worthy conversation. I think there's a lot of worthy conversation. I think, former scouts talk all the time about the gutting of scouting in baseball. And I do think that there might be more room between simple data and significant scouting. Like, I think there might be room for both. And my opinion might be that might be an area that someone one day says, hey, what if we did both? Like, what if, like this is great, and I'm glad we have it, but what if we also, now they might not have the power that they had once upon a time, but what if we did reinvest a little bit more in our scouting department to see if those two things, I think that could change. But the idea that you're just going to stop making data-based decisions, I mean,
I guess what I'm saying in terms of like an in-game manager, a situation like last night, or making the lineups against any given pitcher in the situation like that. That's more of what I mean. I'm with you 100% in terms of the scouting aspect of it all. I mean, obviously there is always going to be room for guys that played in the game and have that type of, inherent knowledge and experience, and try to interweave that with, the nerds. But like in terms of in-game managing, I don't know, man.
Yep. This is the way it's going to be. This is baseball now. That's the way that it goes.
Yeah.
The only other thing I'll say too is that, like, if you want to debate other things, like you want to debate whether Soto should be on the team, let's have that conversation. It's not changing today. The Orioles gave up too much in that deal. That short of getting him to kindly fall into the Ubaldo pothole, they kind of don't have a choice. Like they can't look back on that. I do think that if Grayson's going to the IL, that they might have a minimal chance here to bring back Keegan Aiken, put Keegan Aiken in and then try to do the reset thing with Gregory Soto that they've been doing with Craig Kimbrell, where since we have two other lefties that we can trust, then maybe we can. But like that was the other problem last night. You only have two lefties. Like, that's it. Yeah. When everybody says, well, you could have used Perez there. Yeah, but it was a one-run game in the sixth inning. The notion that you're going to go 3 more innings without needing your leverage lefty is nonsense. Like, maybe you get lucky and it works that way, but to be thinking that in the sixth inning is illogical. Like, you just can't operate that way. But if you can put Keegan Aiken back on the roster, maybe then you could deleverage the situations that you use Soto in for a bit and see if you can't reset him. But it might very well be that that's just, that's the Jack Flaherty trade from last year. That's the one that we get to the end of the year and we say, boy, that one was awful. Like, just a giant swing and a miss, and that could be the possibility.
I mean, it very well could be. And look, he's had 3 appearances. Obviously we'll let this thing play out. And then you have Sir Anthony Dominguez, who's been solid for the O's. But the Phillies being a World Series contending team, despite the slide that they've been in recently, you aren't exactly looking to deal some of your top bullpen arms when you're going for it. So I think that needs to be taken into consideration as well.
Of course, it's part of the conversation. It's where we are. All right. Yeah. What else is going on in your world, pal?
Nothing much. Just kind of prepping. We got a jam-packed show. Mike Elias is actually set to join us at 4.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, heard of him. So that should be a fun conversation following last night.
Yeah, it should be some interesting things to ask about. All right, let's play Would You Rather Wednesday. Would You Rather Wednesday is brought to you by Glory Days Grill. Someone who participates today is winning a $25 gift card to Glory Days Grill. All you got to do is respond. That's it. That's it. Just respond. At Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter, Facebook.com/Glenn Clark Radio. You can see the scenarios for Would You Rather Wednesday. Tim, number 1, I knew what I was doing here, and I thought I could get people to lean. It's been overwhelming, and I think I know your answer. Would you rather Grayson Rodriguez, largely fine, will be back before the season is over, or Grayson Rodriguez's season is over, but back in September, one Felix Bautista?
Ooh. And Felix is the guy that he was last year.
Is Felix Bautista correct?
I mean, they really need some back end of the bullpen help. But I just think, look, when you brought in Zach Eflin, you felt pretty good about this 1-2-3 going into the postseason with Burns, Grayson, and Zach Eflin. I mean, if in the hypothetical Grayson's not going to be back in the postseason, then do you slot in Kramer to the 3, and then we're kind of similar to where we were last year, basically swapping Bradish and Burns and Eflin and Grayson. I think you got to go with Grayson. I think that way you at least feel pretty good about that 1-2-3.
This one is weird to me. Go ahead, Griffin. Go ahead.
I mean, if you get Felix Bautista back, I think you have to. You're
very much in the minority on that.
I am, really.
Extraordinarily.
Well, the thing about Felix is that we just took for granted last year. I mean, guys, how many 4, 5, 6 out saves was he getting?
Constant.
I mean, which is an absolute weapon in October. But
I think the problem that we're having is that we feel like the answer is supposed to be like because what you're really saying is starting pitching or relief pitching more important. And like, yeah, starting pitching, like that's what it feels like you're supposed to be saying. But every single one of us that's saying Grayson Rodriguez would also say the biggest problem facing this team right now is the back end of the bullpen, right? Like,
yes.
So it's like where common sense is meeting like our gut, and like it feels like we're just defaulting back to, right? But those guys pitch more innings, like. And we have to say it's the starting pitching. Like, we have to say that. That's what we're supposed to say. And that's sort of where I am, where, like, I feel like I have to default back to that. But at the same time, that's Felix Bautista we're talking about. And that, to me, even if Grayson Rodriguez is hurt, you said to me, what is the biggest area of concern that you have about the baseball team? I would still come back to the back end of the bullpen. I would still come back to that.
And if we're playing the Vibes game, imagine Felix Bautista walks into that dugout.
Oh,
you forget all about the Grayson Rodriguez.
Throw out every matchup, blow up analytics, shoot them into the sun. They no longer exist. Analytics are dead to us in that situation. All right. Number 2. Would you rather? Brandon Ayuk apparently not going to the New England Patriots. As I joked about yesterday on the show, there's never been someone who has been more desirous. If the options are New England and Cleveland, there's never been a human being that was more desirous of the answer being Cleveland. It's the first time in human history that anyone's ever been like, yeah, Cleveland. So would you rather Brandon Ayuk indeed goes to Cleveland for a fair price and re-signs, or ends up where a lot of us thought he might be to begin with, Pittsburgh, for a fair price and re-signs?
That's spicy. I might zig a little bit here. I'm going to say Cleveland.
Okay.
And I guess I'm almost like sort of playing a little bit of the long game as well, where Deshaun Watson is an albatross of a contract right now. Amari Cooper's a free agent at the end of the year. Their cap situation moving forward is disastrous. Where the Steelers, look, I don't even know how I feel about them this year. I'm not exactly even high on either Justin Fields or Russell Wilson. But it's a Mike Tomlin coach team, and they just somehow find a way to be relevant every single year, where Cleveland, they needed to bring Joe Flacco off the couch last year to resurrect their season. And Deshaun Watson, we've seen him play one good half of football as a Brown, and that was at M&T Bank Stadium last year. I'd probably say Cleveland, but I'm guessing I'm in the minority.
But it's not nearly what number 1 is, right? Like number 1 is like 90-10. This one's more like 65-35. Go ahead, Griffin.
I think Cleveland is also the answer.
Okay.
I guess it's just
might end up being 50-50.
Now I want to change since he's on my.
I mean, I think it's like what Tim said. Cleveland just isn't as scary as Pittsburgh is.
The ultimate, again, the thing that I keep coming back to, I know what you just said. The only area I disagree with you, Tim, is like I'm a Fields truther. Like I am the way that he has been treated by this league, and part of this is sort of me, all of the feelings that I've had about Lamar Jackson for many years. Like
see, Glenn, let me ask you that, and I'd like to hear your perspective. I think Justin Fields is what critical Lamar fans think Lamar Jackson is. That's how I view Justin Fields.
I think that's fair, but I think it's also fair that like Justin Fields might be what Lamar Jackson really was as a rookie, and that there's just not been time given to the idea that like he can continue to improve as a passer. Remember, that was the way that some people treated Lamar. Even some of the like reasonable criticism, not the nonsense, not the he's a wide receiver, he's a running back, but like there were reasonable folk that were like, look, man, like quarterbacks with these passing numbers in college, the history says they don't improve as passers in the NFL. And
for sure,
it was fair. That was a fair point to make and was legitimate. It was just ended up being wrong, right? Like Lamar Jackson got better as a passer, and that's why he became the. I don't know that Justin Fields will, but I have this fear when I do watch him, and the guy that we saw in the second half of last season, I'm like, he's not an awful passer. He's not. He's not polished. He's not perfect, but I do think that we have evidence that players that have extraordinary athleticism might still be able to improve in those areas. And given that like the Las Vegas Raiders legitimately they're going into an NFL season with no quarterback. They're doing a wacky bit where like people are out there pretending like there's some world where Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell could be fun. It's like reading the John Eisenberg book about black quarterbacks really does like it hits me when I have these things. Like we are willing to go to that length to pretend like it is somehow sensical that there are multiple teams that really don't have quarterbacks, specifically the Las Vegas Raiders, who don't even have a hint of a quarterback. Like you could even vibe your way to like, well, Aiden O'Connell wasn't disastrous, right? He was so not disastrous that they're willing to let Gardner Minshew try to win the job from him. And yet Justin Fields isn't a starting quarterback in the NFL. That don't make sense.
Well, no. Obviously, you're taking the Steelers quarterback room over the Raiders every single day of the week. I mean, look, Kenny Pickett stinks, even though I don't think super highly of either of those quarterbacks in the Steelers room right now. They upgraded. I mean, there's no doubt that they upgraded.
That's the lowest bar. But like, I really don't think anything of Russell Wilson at this point in his career. The data about him not throwing the ball more than 5 yards downfield last year is relevant to me. Like, in order to make him competent, not good, competent, they had to take downfield throwing out of the offense in Denver. Like, I really do think it's over with Russell Wilson. I think the best possible scenario for the rest of the division is that Pittsburgh continues to feel this like, well, we signed him first, so we got to let him be the starter thing. Because
I think that's been the most confusing thing. And, we've had a ton of Steelers beat guys on in the offseason, as I'm sure you have. And, we always ask him each time, like, is this really Russ's job? Is there really no competition? And then you got Mike Tomlin coming out today saying that there is an open competition. We know Russ has missed time because of the calf injury, and Fields is going to start Friday. I still think Fields wins that job. I'm with you 100% on that.
I have some legitimate fear that Justin Fields could end up being good, really good this year, and then we'll see if they, if he is, then they'll obviously do whatever they have to do in order to keep him around.
And that's the other part of it, where you look at the Steelers receiving room right now, and it's George Pickens and a bunch of guys, and that's the issue. Look, you got two good running backs, and that's another part of the reason why there's been so much smoke around Ayuk to the Steelers, where it seems like that's going to happen. Look, they bring in Brandon Ayuk. I mean, you got some talent on that side of the football. You got a solid 1-2 at receiver. You got a solid 1-2 at running back. You got Freiermuth there. I mean, if that offensive line, which they've invested a ton in over the past year or two, ends up being solid, I mean, you can start dreaming a little if you're a Steelers fan.
And all of that is why I'm with you. That to me, the answer is Cleveland. But that's so unique based on my personal thought process about Justin Fields, which, again, I could be very wrong about. I thought the Bears were going to be competitive last year. I thought they were going to be good last year. And they ultimately, by the time they finally got it figured out, they were a threat. I'm like, damn it. I was so close. I was so close to this one. Yeah, that's why my answer is Cleveland as well. And finally, number 3, because this has gone on forever. Number 3, Would You Rather Wednesday. Would you rather be the guy that won the bronze medal in the pole vault or be the guy that didn't medal in the pole vault because his penis got in the way? Because the world now knows that his penis is so big that he can't compete in the pole vault. Which would you rather?
I think I'm taking the hammer, dude.
Yeah.
I think I'm taking the hammer if you're giving me those two choices, because look, people are going to forget about the bronze. Every single Summer Olympics, every 4 years, we're going to see that clip on Twitter of that guy's hammer just not letting him, get over. I think he lives on forever.
I don't think he lives on forever. I think we've forgotten about it largely by the time. But somebody will bring it up. Somebody like, dude, remember that time there was a guy with a huge penis? Like, I get that you're right that somebody will bring it up. But I don't think it lives on forever. But I also think that, go ahead, Griffin.
I mean, yeah, because it's like I know we talked about it earlier in the week. It's more profitable as well. I think because he's already got some partnerships with underwear companies.
Yeah, but
very nice.
The bigger ones are the ones from the cam. I don't think he's going to be doing I think he's going to pass on the pornographic offers.
Well, I mean, do we know that for sure?
We don't know that, but
the new career.
He's probably going to.
I mean, how much can you sell a bronze medal for? I guess
I don't think you'd be looking to sell it. I think you'd be looking to use it to capitalize.
That's what I'm trying to think about here.
All right.
Probably be that guy.
This one's actually a little bit more split.
Couldn't go over the pole.
I think there's a bit more split. A lot more people that are like, dude, you're going to be able to show, for example, Lou says, you're going to be able to show your grandkids one of those things. And
that's great.
I mean, maybe not in Jeremy Kahn's family. They might be.
Yeah, no.
All right. Mike Elias, you say on the program today.
Yeah, we got a jam-packed show. Ken's going to be out at training camp, so we'll get some hits from him. He's coming back in the 5 o'clock hour. We got Mike Elias at 4. We got Tyler Wells at 3:30, and a lot of fun in between 2 to 6. And then, hey, Baltimore baseball tonight. Myself and Jim Hunter, 6 to 7.
Our favorite old retired guy. You
absolutely.
You and JH tonight at 6. At Tim Barbalace, love you, buddy. You're coming to the party next Saturday, right?
Oh, yeah. I'll be there.
Look forward to it. Thanks, bud. We'll talk soon.
Looking forward to it. All right, man. I'll see you.
Tim Barbalace with us here on GCR. That's a good way of Lou does present that in a very fair way. Yeah, it's awesome now to have but being a medalist at the Olympics does live forever. It does. That's something that you'll always have. That will always matter that you have that medal. But
yeah, probably.
The line is, I couldn't make it gold medalist because that's where everybody would have to say, dude, no, a gold medal is more important than having a huge. But what about a silver medal? Would you suddenly, if it was a silver, would you suddenly feel differently?
I don't know. No.
And what if you're very comfortable with what you have going on?
Yeah, I guess that's true. I know.
I'm good.
Oh, you're good? Yeah.
I don't know if you heard. Confirmed 2-time sex haver. Everybody knows that about me. I have definitively had intercourse twice. Maybe more.
We're definitely sure?
Yeah, they're mine.
Okay.
You ever looked at them? You gotten a good look? That is the good news. It's There's no question in my life of the milkman was involved. Colton Cowser, of course. Right. I don't think that my wife had an affair with Colton Cowser 10 years ago or 9 years ago when he would have been 15.
A child.
Yeah. Right. I don't think I have to worry about that. I think we're good in that department. Continue to get me your responses for Would You Rather Wednesday. Again, somebody's getting that $25 gift card to Glory Days Grill. John in Little Rock says that guy's a legend now. Yes, for now, but I do think that's fleeting. I really do. I think it's fleeting. It feels in the moment you're like, hell yeah, I want to be that guy. But I don't know 6 months from.
I mean, I guess the point is
4 weeks ago, the entire world wanted to be the Hawk Tua girl.
Well, I don't know if they wanted to.
She's dead now. No one knows. It's over. It's over. No one.
Well, she didn't capitalize on it well enough.
What was she going to capitalize on it with?
I don't know. Not go on Bill Maher's show. Bill Maher, how you say his name?
Did she go on Bill Maher?
Yeah, she did like his podcast or something.
Well,
it was weird.
I don't know,
It was weird. It was bad.
I was gonna say if that's where Bill Maher is gone,
it was good.
It's over for him too. God, that's where we are. In the moment, it always feels like that's the guy. But then like a couple weeks later, I think that medal might be more valuable at that point. Poland looks like they're about to force a fifth set.
Oh, dang. What the heck? It was just tied.
Well, the U.S. was up in this set, too.
Yeah, that's true.
The vibes, man. It's vibes
there we go.
Battling. They're trying to stay in it, but now they got to side. Now all Poland's got to do is side out.
Jeski. Can you say that guy's name?
Not a chance in hell. I swear to God, I thought this guy that looks like Enzo Amore from the WWE, I thought he had hurt one of his teammates during a celebration. At one point, he like came over and shook him, and one of his teammates stayed down on the ground for a little bit. It's like, yo, the celebrations are intense. They are nuts. All right, we're good. We done all of our we done all our breaks.
Yes, we have.
John wanted to know if I had any thoughts about. We talked about Russell Gage. I don't. The Russell Gage thing. I don't have much. It's a depth / training camp signing. Like, you know. If there's something to offer, they're going 5. Race to 15 now. I don't know if Russell Gage has something to offer. He was never very good. He was a depth receiver at his best. So now he's a couple years removed from being at his best depth receiver. The concern was it related to Rashad Bateman? A lot of mixed injury stuff. We didn't really talk about it because we were so obsessed with the Grayson Rodriguez thing. John Harbaugh really downplayed Rashad Bateman, suggests that's fine. If that's the case, could he compete for a 5th wide receiver job? Sure, but if Deontay Hardy is going to be a return man, I just don't know how many jobs really are available. It certainly is good to have more depth. We were all nonplussed about Nelson Aguilar. Nelson Aguilar proved to be helpful. It does not hurt you to have more depth because guys do get hurt between now and the start of the season, and it's good to have a veteran there. Do I know that Russell Gage would be definitively better than like some other team's training camp cut, like the guy that becomes available if you needed somebody Labor Day weekend? I don't know that, but it can't hurt you. I got no beef with it whatsoever. If you missed it yesterday, Adisa Isaac gets on the field for the first time, which is nice, but he's got a long way to go. He's a 3rd-round pick. I don't know how much we're expecting. I hope that he ends up being a rock star. It ends up being a hell of a find for the Baltimore Ravens. The Tyler Linderbaum thing from 2 days ago was downplayed. They didn't end up signing Connor Williams. He went to Miami. What was
or Seattle? Yeah.
Was it Seattle?
Yeah. I think that when I saw the report too, it was weird because they were like former Dolphin signs with Seattle or something.
I could have sworn. Oh, you're right. It is the Seattle Seahawks. My fault. You're right. So yes, he's Seattle Seahawks.
Because I did the same mistake. I was like, what?
Yes. And then. So the big one from yesterday, of course, was Arthur Millette, who this came out of nowhere. He's not on the practice field, and John Harbaugh says he's got a knee injury. The question was just, what's going on with Arthur Millette? He's like, well, he's got a knee issue, not season-ending, which is a hell of a way to describe something that no one asked if was season. Like, as I said, that it's much more alarming that he used those words than it would be if he didn't. If he just said, yeah, he's got a knee thing, we're trying to see where it goes, we'd all be like, oh, okay. The fact that he felt like he needed to say not season ending makes you very worried that like, oh, he's missing time. I hope that's not the case. We don't really know anything yet about Arthur Millette, so we'll see if we learn anything in the coming days. But yeah, you do not like that was nobody said, hey John, is Arthur Millette's situation season ending? Then it would make sense for him to say not season ending. But the guy that never talks about injuries, feeling the need to say not season ending, now all of a sudden I have concerns. Now I had no concerns. Now I do.
Cameron Wolfe said that he'll have a scope later this week, and the expectation is that he misses some regular season time, possibly September, but not season-ending. That was Cameron Wolf's report from earlier this morning.
I missed that. Thank you. That is very helpful.
So he makes it sound, not season-ending, which is, I guess, a broad term, but not like not months. I guess maybe August and September. I guess is the way that is the way I read that.
Okay. Well, I hope that's the case. A lot of people, obviously, after everything that went on with Tyus last year, of course, the internet, whenever they say anything, is like, as soon as you hear John Harbaugh say not season ending, the entire internet's like, oh, it's over. He's definitely out for the year. I get it. I understand what the reaction. I hope that Cameron Wolf's information is correct. Actually, I hope that he's wrong, too, and that Arthur Millette's out there for week 1. But it don't look great at the moment. I feel like there was one other guy that there was an update on yesterday that I've already forgotten about. Oh, Dafe Owe, but that was, again, downplayed by John Harbaugh. That does not seem significant. But given Dafe Owe's injury history, again, another one that I understand why the reaction was a little bit over the top. All right, I think that covers everything. John says, little surprised that more people didn't turn up to see Barcelona and AC Milan last night in Baltimore. Pretty sure that was the lowest attendance of their tour. I gotta approach this 2 different ways. I gotta be honest with you. I'm surprised that 50,000 people show up to see any fake soccer match. Really, these aren't real games. Like, it's a miracle to me that many people would go see it. Now, in context, when you say, hey, there were a lot of people in Philadelphia, that stadium was packed, this one wasn't, well, then you can add a little bit more of the context. One, the weather looked miserable last night. It didn't end up being really bad until later, but during the day yesterday, we were all looking at thunderstorms. And a lot of people do make decisions. Now, I don't think that's the difference in 20,000 people showing up, but I do think it could be the difference in more people showing up. The other thing I'll say, and I'm not trying to be, I think there were a lot of people in town that didn't know there was a soccer match in Baltimore last night. I don't think there was a lot of marketing done for this. I definitely felt way more marketing for the Annapolis game, and it's not just because it was marketed here. Like, I saw that a lot of places. The only places I saw marketing were internal Ravens places. Like, I think they might have done some ad buys in other spots, but there wasn't like they were not calling around asking people to have guests on. There was not a push to market the game all that much. So I don't know what to make of that. I mean, they might have even spent money. I think we might have even been running like banner ads on press box. This doesn't mean knocking the Ravens. How dare they not spend advertising money? I'm telling you, like, if somebody called over, hey, can you put the star player, I don't even know who these people are, or the American player that's on.
Pulisic was.
It probably wouldn't be him, but
Oh yeah, not on the. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Yes, I would do that. I'm interested in this, but they didn't. So I don't think they did that in other places either. I just didn't feel any of that around town. I think there were an awful lot of people that had no idea there was a soccer match in Baltimore last night. And I don't know if that would have driven a sold-out stadium. There's also maybe a small part of me that wonders if the Ravens, having gone through all of their renovations, if they kind of wanted this to be more of like a soft reopening. Like, hey, maybe we purposely don't try to put 75,000 people in for the first one. Like, let's get – I had heard
they'll get 75 on Friday, so yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be 75 there on Friday, but, like, I had been told there were some of the new things were not ready yet for last night. Like, they're hoping we'll be ready for Friday, but we're not ready for last night. And I wonder if that was part of the thought process, is we're not going to push to try to fill the stadium because we want to do more of a soft opening of all of these new renovations and make sure that everything's running smoothly to get towards football season. These are all theories. Nobody has told me that. That's what I got for you. But still, I think it's a miracle that you get 50,000 people for any fake sporting event. Like, that's how? How are there 50,000 people that choose to go to sporting events that are not real? Like, that's incredible. But that's context for me.
People like seeing balls kicked.
I'm not trying to knock. Like, these are famous people. Like, I get it. It's wild. All right. Very good. You want to get a tidbit? Okay.
Have you ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland Terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
All right, what you got?
We did mention it. Amit Allure, she became when she won gold yesterday, she became the youngest American wrestler to win Olympic gold in the history of wrestling at 20 years old.
Awesome.
20 years and 7 months old. So congrats to Amit Allure. As wrestling is underway here for the final week of the Olympics. Did you see? So Framber Valdez took a no-hitter, 8 2/3 yesterday. I'm not sure.
See that.
Yeah, everyone was very obviously we were preoccupied with
Yes.
a lot of other things in Baltimore.
I still hadn't heard about it today. It's the first. I'm Donald Trump right now. It's the first I'm hearing of this. You're telling me now for the first time.
I'm sad to hear that, yeah. But yeah, Valdez was almost his second no-hitter. But yeah, 2 outs in the ninth. Corey Seager hits a 2-run homer to break up the no-hitter.
The Orioles were threatening to get no-hit last night.
Yeah. Seager became the second player to homer to break up a no-hitter with 2 outs in the ninth this season. Do you remember the other one that happened this season?
I know. I remember it happening.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I forget who it was against. I mean, it was J.D. Martinez back in May.
Yeah.
Back in May, J.D. Martinez for the Mets hit one to break up a no-hitter. Did I forget? Oh, yes. And then so also it is the second time that Corey Seager has done this exact thing. With 2 outs in the ninth, he broke up a no-hitter back in August of 2016.
Really?
Yes. Back in August of 2016. Wow. He did it against Matt Moore and the Giants. Of course, Bruce Bochy was managing the Giants back then. That was very interesting. As Corey Seager did that. And then earlier this week, Mason Wynn of the Cardinals, very very good, became the third Cardinal to have 9 homers and 9 stolen bases at his age 22 season. Or younger. He became the third Cardinal to do that, or younger. So Mason Wynn, he joins the list with 1900's Mike Donlin.
Mike
Knew you were going to
Mikey
get that
D,
one.
yeah.
In 1943.
1943.
Yeah. Cardinal.
Should I know?
No. Well, I mean, it's a Cardinal, so no. But
Right.
but it's a good Cardinal, so.
It's a good card, but 1943.
Yeah. Well, he was very young, so.
He was very young in 43. It still seems like it's aggressive to be the guy that I'm thinking of. 1943. Was it Stan Musial?
It was Stan Musial.
Boy, I did not realize that he was. I didn't realize that 43 seems wild.
4 Orioles have had 9 home runs and 9 stolen bases in their age 22 season or younger.
9 home runs, 4 Orioles.
9 home runs, 9 stolen bases.
Manny Machado.
Manny Machado, yes. In 2015. Wow, he was still 22.
9 stolen bases.
Back in 2015.
God. I'm trying to figure out which way to. I feel like you have to go with guys that hit home runs and hope that when they were younger, they also stole some bases. Was Adam still less than 22 when he came to the Baltimore?
He, in fact, was. 2008, Adam Jones on this list of 9 home runs, 9 stolen bases.
You don't think of Nick Markakis as a home run hitter, but I'll try it.
Not Nick Markakis.
Just trying to go with guys that I know were young. Gunnar.
Yes, Gunnar last season. Last season was his age 22 season, and he obviously hit a lot of home runs and ended up stealing 10 bases by the end of the year.
One more?
One more. So we had one last year. This guy was on the complete opposite end, 1956.
How am I supposed to remember who was an Oriole in 1956? Was it Brooks?
No, not Brooks. So he... I'm trying to think of hints without, his son is I guess was. He's no longer. He just retired. Was a manager, a longtime manager in Major League Baseball.
His son was a manager.
And I did not know that his dad was an Oriole. At least started his career as an Oriole.
His son was a manager. And just retired.
His son just retired, yes. Until he comes back, of course.
Terry Francona. Tito Francona.
Tito Francona in 1956 with the Orioles had 9-9 that year.
Yeah. Boy, that was going to take me a little bit. That was something. All right, very good. Now let's get tubular.
There is a place where tradition, family, and community gather, where the aspirations of talented young competitors takes root, and where the crossroads of history, culture, and renewal come together. This spring, experience America's newest and most innovative ballpark, Meritus Park in Hagerstown, Maryland, home of the Atlantic League Flying Boxcars. Plan your getaway today. You're welcome in Hagerstown, Maryland.
It's not. It's bad. It's 10-7 in the fifth. It's just about over.
Still time.
About over. Oh, I'd be so heartbroken by this. I was so excited for a gold medal match. It's what it is. It looks like they might be playing for the bronze. All right, here's what's coming up, totally tubular-wise. Masson 2, Orioles, Blue Jays, 7:07, Trevor Rogers and Bowden Francis, as Trevor Rogers will need to be much, much, much better. USA's Olympics
up, right?
coverage, I guess. Still coming up today, men's water polo quarterfinal, U.S. and Australia at 1 o'clock. And the women's basketball quarterfinal, Nigeria and the U.S. at 3:15 on USA. NBC still has the one beach volleyball team that's left, Partain and, oh, God, I forgot what his partner's name is. Sorry. But
USA.
They're playing at 4 o'clock against a team from Qatar on NBC. That's about it. That's Olympics-wise that matters. You can watch the gold zone.
So Hildebrand will be going for gold wrestling.
Hildebrand.
She's just a good wrestler.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
God bless. Other baseball today, Masson Giants Nationals 6:45, FS1 Padres Pirates 6:40, MLB Network Twins Cubs 2:20, Phillies Dodgers 10:10, MLB.TV the free game is Diamondbacks Guardians at 1:10, ESPN Plus Tigers Mariners at 9:40. ESPN has Little League Baseball regionals all day. The Tennis Channel for coverage of the National Bank Open, the Canada event that's got the great field. That's all day. And TBS for AEW Dynamite tonight at 8. Some non-sports.
Were you a Dance Moms fan?
No.
Why not?
Why would I have ever watched Dance Moms?
They're bringing back a new era of Dance Moms. That's
oh,
what it's
hell
called.
yeah.
Dance
now
Moms,
I'm in.
Dance Moms, a new era on Hulu.
Can't miss that.
But yeah, I mean, it doesn't look the same. There's no Abby Lee. It's not the
it doesn't have Abby Lee?
Yeah, I don't know how they're
just forget it.
I don't know why they're doing it.
I'm out.
That's on Hulu.
Ridiculous. And you know what? I want to talk to somebody's manager.
I mean, yeah. I don't know how they don't bring Abby Lee back. Netflix says Love is Blind UK. That's it.
Love is Blind UK.
Yeah,
okay. That's what we got?
Yeah, that's what we got. Nothing.
Very good.
Nothing.
Very good.
Well, Dance Moms, obvious.
Why do you put the Olympics on when I already have the Olympics?
Well, because it's like it's the prime time. I'll delete it.
I mean, I just don't. I don't get that.
I don't know. Because it's just
you can add it to the place where we already have the Olympics.
Oh, add it to the NBC list.
Like
okay.
if you felt the need to do it, that would make more
more
sense. I don't know. Thanks today to Tim Barbalace. Thanks to Chelsea Janes. Thanks to Will Carroll, Mr. Injury Expert. We'll get all of it up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh my God.
It's so good at GlennClarkRadio.com. Tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Tomorrow, anything?
We're gonna go to Bowie.
Okay.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
And we'll talk Ravens, I'm sure.
Oh no.
What do you mean no?
This is not encouraging.
Well,
This is not the we're back in the swing of things week. This has been like the type of week.
Well, I know. Yeah, I know.
No Griffin though, so tune in for that. That might make a difference. Thanks to everybody at Press
Orioles will
Club.
right the ship. It should be a good show tomorrow.
All your great sponsors and partners, Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Visit Hagerstown in Washington County, Cruise, Maryland, Ocean City, Easy Pass, Royal Farms, Ed Block Courage Awards, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, the Costa Sin, MSAA, the Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great evening. Go Birds. Go Team USA's. Duke sucks.